Welcome to Stwimo University. Stwimo University. Stwimo University. Let's see if I can record a VOD. Let's just throw all those away. And we'll just open the folder. Do I do that again? I don't want to do that again. Let's just check my storage. I've had like literally any games installed. It's got 90 gigabytes. I'm okay. Welcome to Stwimo University. Stwimo University. That's the wheel. Do I take one Ritalin or two? That's the real question. Kirkland Energy. It's prescription. It's prescription. Here, look, I'll show you. Benjamin on the bottle says my name. There you go. Don't ban me, Twitch. Okay. I don't know how regular live streamers do it. I think my best option. Okay, so let's go to Bloomberg. There was one clip I wanted. And that was of the Iran crisis, or the oil crisis. Let's see, is my audio even like built like that though? My audio even like that? Oh, that's kind of dope, right? That's kind of dope, right? Something to do. Okay, let's just look at Bloomberg oil reserves. Venezuela oil too heavy to be desired. I don't know what that means. Okay, well now I'm getting fucking clickbaited by. Oh fuck! I don't have YouTube Premium. That would go hard as fuck. I should get an ad. I hate to use DuckDuckGo, but that might be the move.
Nuveen invests with the foresight that comes from over a century of experience.
Okay. Then oil reserves. Global race to build oil reserves. Alright, let's watch this fucking guy.
Is Venezuela's oil was going to only one barrel, and from the middle of 2024 to December, China has already bought almost 300 million barrels of oil. That's the amount of oil if US puts in the SPR, it will get to fill from its current level SPR level of 400. So if there were
Dude, how am I gonna handle this nonsense? Hold on. Let's see if any of these settings do it.
And they have to go for alternate oil, then the oil prices react. Only one buyer who has already bought a lot. This was expected, this was priced in.
What do you think the U.S. meant by running Venezuela in terms of
Okay.
supply?
I think this setting is the
Essentially,
best. We're gonna
decide
stick with this, and then let's put on some headphones, like some kind of game-o. Some kind of game-o. What do I do with my fucking... Oh, there it is. It's right in front of me the whole time. Yeah.
Oil, for example, I mean, in terms of really getting production back, I mean, how difficult would it actually look?
You asked a very good question, and I think the answer is probably less in the politics of it, but more in the chemistry of oil. And my answer is that, one, there is a lot of hype around, I saw the previous person, greatest oil reserves at 300 billion barrels. That is wrong. Those are paper barrels. In somewhere 2008 or so, when the oil prices touched 150 near dollars per barrel, the Venezuelan then president just increased the numbers because a lot of the heavy oil, this oil is twice as heavy as the normal Middle Eastern barrels. So at that very high price, they proved that we have a lot more oil. At the current prices, these are paper reserves, and probably the reserves are probably less than or near 100 million barrels. So that's one point. And the second point is that this oil is so heavy to produce, and the number of refineries in the US and elsewhere is declining who wants this kind of an oil. We already know Saudi Arabia in the recent times canceled a 1 million barrels per day heavy crude oil project, Safania. So this is not the oil what the world needs in future as we go where we need less gasoline, less diesel. So I guess a lot of hot talk, a lot of, I guess, wrong analysis happening, and that's I wanted to just call out.
Okay, well, that's why we got Jan to help us understand the nuance. It's almost like me saying I should have been the Olympic gold medal sprinter if only I trained every day of my life since I was born. But help me understand this then. So in the meantime, though, so the Venezuelans have stepped back as far as supply is concerned, and
I could honestly care less about Venezuelan oil because it seems like it's just kind of not relevant. Oh shit! Wait. Oh yeah, here we go.
Joining us now is energy markets expert Dan Dicker. He's also the author of the book Oil's Endless Bid: Taming the Unreliable Price of Oil to Secure Our Economy.
Yeah.
Dan, it's great to speak with you. I'm going to pull back the curtain a bit. You and I were in a green room, and you admitted to me this is a dire time in global energy, the likes of which you haven't seen before. So let's set the table with that. Give us a sense of how bad the picture is for global oil markets, global energy markets right now. And we hear the President Trump saying, straits open, it's going to be like a gusher. Oil's going to be flooding out of there. What does that mean? Yes, for the market, but for the price that people are paying at the pump as well.
Right, David. So what you have is the rhetoric of the president, obviously, jawboning a market where the physical realities are starting to assert themselves, where they hadn't so much for the
realities.
last, 3
Might
months
you say the
before.
material
I mean,
conditions?
we basically had stockpiles, and I'm not talking about state-run stockpiles. I'm talking about generic stockpiles that are held by oil companies. In some cases, they're sovereign stockpiles, but they've been withdrawn from to try and cushion the blow of this export disaster, the likes of which, I've never seen in my 45-year history of oil. I mean, there's 6 to 8 million barrels of oil that's not getting to its source.
What do you do? I do oil.
On the global
How long have you been doing oil?
every day. This has been
I've
going
been
on
doing
for a long
oil
time.
for
It continues to
45
go on no
years.
matter what the heck is going on with memorandums of understanding and deals and whatever Trump says is going on in the Strait of Hormuz, which is not. And so you're down in the global stockpile area of about 500 billion barrels of oil globally, and that is just incredibly significant towards, what's going to happen in the marketplace if a huge amount of oil doesn't reach its targets at some point pretty darn soon. And even if it does, it might not be enough to stop what is a tremendous issue with global supply. So, what I see in a marketplace is a bunch of, and this is, where I really come in, where there is some insight I can provide. There's been a jawboning, so there's been a trader's reluctance over the course of the entire war to pay up for oil that should be a heck of a lot more than $110 or $115 where it ran at its height. If we had this kind of global supply shortage, in normal days, in the years that I've been trading it, it would have meant a price of oil far higher than $110 or $115. And now what's happening is that the traders have been so frightened to own oil because, Trump was announcing 32 deals, every separate Sunday. There was a deal coming. When the deal finally came, these traders weren't long, and now they're spectacularly short at $75, $76 a barrel. Now, to give you some perspective, this is exactly the range that the oil was in for 2 years prior to this war. We had been hovering between $55 and $75. I mean, it's the upper end of the range, but it was, the part of the range when oil was as boring as I've ever seen in 20 years. And your supplies were very steady, and there was really nothing dynamically to make the price of oil go up. And now we're at a place where at the upper end of this deadly boring range that for some reason turned the risk premium of the supply from something that was being underpaid to a relief premium that's being incredibly overpaid, in my view. So, looking at oil right now, particularly with the tenuous nature of this deal and what will happen with the Strait, I find that the marketplace right now and gas prices are being way overly optimistic to what likely will happen over the course of the next 60 days.
Okay, Dan, you are speaking my language because this is something I say every time we have an oil person or a markets person. As someone who...
Well, if you're saying it every time we have an oil person or a markets person, you're probably wrong. But he's not wrong in this instance. We are so fucked. Let's look at this.
That wise man.
Who said that?
Donald Trump.
Oh.
And I did just want to ask you about this. A wise man once said in January of 2020, Iran never won a war, but never lost.
What kind of flattery? It's so funny because it's so hollow. Like, if you're trying to flatter Donald Trump by quoting him, you have to, literally spell it out. Like, there's obviously no way he's going to remember that he said that. If it were something like Hillary Clinton is a crook, he might remember that. But if you're going to give, a long-winded quote, he's not going to fucking know it's what he said. He doesn't know when the last time he fucking slept with us. The guy's fucked. He's fucking retarded. Or I should look at that's TOS.
That wise man.
Who said that?
Donald Trump.
Oh, that's what I thought you were going to say.
So how do you go back to the United States and convince a skeptical American public that this deal is a win?
Here they lost militarily, okay? It's very tough because I know that no matter what, if I would go, by the way, if I'd go another 3 or 4 weeks, those same people that are critical would say, he went too long, he should have done, no matter what. If they raised the white flag of surrender, and if they said, praise be to Allah, Donald Trump is the greatest president ever. We totally concede, we totally give up. This war is over, we have failed. The New York Times and CNN and a couple of others, they're not all that dishonest, they say, Iran had a great victory, okay? And they practically do that. It's amazing. When we knocked out their last ship, they had 159 ships. When we knocked out the last ship, the Times refused to do a story on it. They said, why wouldn't you? They don't have a Navy, and you don't want to do a story on it. They don't have an Air Force, you don't want to do a story. We need a fair press. And that's why they're all doing so badly, because they lost credibility. When I win in a landslide, and I had 93% bad press, they take good stories about me and make them bad. But the only reason that happened is because they have so little, the media has so little credibility that
Dude, Rubio looks like
People
he just
voted
got
for me.
like licked by a
93%
vampire.
of the stories on network ABC is horrible.
He
I
looks
think ABC is the
exhausted.
worst.
He looks like his ankles
NBC
are
is
fucking
terrible.
hurt, like he
And
can't stand.
CBS is terrible. The CNN, obviously. And I never get good stories, no matter what I do. I could do the greatest thing. I won't get good stories on this. I'll get it from Fair Media. I'll get it from all over the world. They're running good. But no matter what I do, I'm going to get bad press. I know that. Now, if I did the opposite, if I went out and continued to bomb them for another 4, just bomb the hell out of them, I'd get bad press on that. No, there's nothing I can do. But what this does is it allows the ships to go. If we keep bombing, those ships won't be going. And you're talking about $500, $600, $700 million a day. It's a lot of money. A lot of money. That's why the world is okay. It's liquid. It's fine. Also, we run out of reserves in about 4 weeks. You know, there are reserves all over the world, and we would really run out. And there'll be a time when you wouldn't be able to get it. And you want to see bedlam? So for all those so-called geniuses, I'm about keep bombing, those ships won't be going. And you're talking about $500, $600, $700 million a day. It's a lot of money. A lot of money. That's why the world is okay. It's liquid. It's fine. Also, we run out of reserves in about 4 weeks. You know, there are reserves.
We'd run out of reserves in about 4 weeks. We'd run out of reserves in about 4 weeks. That was the clip I was looking for right there. Hold on, let's copy that link. It's going in the Google Doc. Okay. And, there we are. What the Sigma? Oh, JD Vance. Wait. Wait a minute. What? Speaks with reporters ahead of departure from Switzerland. Oh, I was like, dude, we've already done a tarmac talk.
All right, guys, good to see you. Well, again, I feel great about the progress that we made over the last couple of days. We're looking forward to going back home. It's been a very long day. I know the reporters had a long day as well, so I appreciate you guys. But look, the fundamental thing we got is, number one, we set up the mechanism to ensure not only the Straits of Hormuz are open, but will stay open.
He's such a... He does not belong next to Trump. It's so funny. Like, I wonder if their thought process when they put him on was like, oh, we're going to put a sane person next to Trump the same way we put a conservative next to Lincoln. Well, I mean, like, back then it didn't matter. Or, like, you put a conservative next to Obama, right? You put the, like, progressive next to the conservative, you know? It just because, like, I don't know. I wonder if they were, like, assuming that Trump's unpopularity stemmed from his, like, wild nature or something, or that he was unpredictable, or bad for whatever, which I don't know. Maybe they wanted to put a sane person next to Trump for that reason, but like JD Vance does not belong with them, and you can tell because he just said thank you guys. Like he was thanking the media for being around him. You know, he was not like pulling random jabs at people. Listen.
For the last couple of days, we're looking forward to going back home. It's been a very long day. I know the reporters had a long day as well, so I appreciate you guys. But look, the fundamental thing we got is, number one, we set up the mechanism to ensure not only the Straits of Hormuz are open, but will stay open. We think about 15 million barrels of oil come out. That's one of the reasons why oil is so low right now. Obviously, that means lower gas prices, and gas prices are going to keep coming down.
If gas prices keep going down and they don't make a deal, we will run out of oil and we will fucking suffer. I mean, we're gonna run out of oil no matter what. I'm in California, and in California, there is absolutely no fucking hope for us because, hold on, this is a great statistic to get. Let's find this one. How much oil does California get from Strait of Hormuz? Holy shit. I can't type. I'm so slow. Okay, well, let's actually... California Energy Commission. There we go. Oh boy, look at this. A perfect pie chart. Yes! Okay, foreign sources of crude oil imports to California. Okay, so... See, Brazil is 17, Iraq is 17, Guyana is 13, Canada is 12, Ecuador is 11, Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Colombia, UAE, other. So, I'm going to assume, hold on, I'm an American, I'm bad at geography, Google Earth. So I think Iraq is, does Iraq ship through... Where do they ship their oil? I would imagine it goes through the Strait of Hormuz. No, I ain't paying for your fucking public service. It's the planet. I don't give a fuck. You're relying... This whole fucking map was made off of satellite images from fucking... launched by fucking government agencies. Like, I do not care. Okay, so here's the hot shit. Iran. Look at all these mountains. Look at this beautiful fucking shit. I mean, I know it looks like ass from up here, but I'm sure it's so beautiful when you're down there. Wowie. I like how, like, it's just, like, zero fucking roads. Ooh, look at this desert. Look at those wind-swept sandy dunes. That's so pretty. Whoa. Okay, what are we doing right now? Okay. UAE. So UAE accounts for 3.35% of oil. So that has to go through the strait. Oman, I don't think was on here. No, it wasn't. Okay. Iraq. Okay, yeah, I was thinking that I was like, I didn't want to be wrong and be an American idiot, but I was like, I think Iraq ships through the Strait of Hormuz, and it does. So yeah, there's 17% of California oil that can't get through. Saudi Arabia, I think, ships through. Saudi Arabia, I mean, that's the Saudi Arabia right here, the big one. But yeah, they've got this fucking, what is this? The sea of some shit. The Red Sea. Okay, they've got the Red Sea, so they're probably shipping through this strait. Does Saudi Arabia ship through the Red Sea or the... Okay, so Saudi Arabia is honestly probably still supplying, like, they're probably just shifted their production. I mean, it's a huge country, though. I doubt that they're... Hold on, let's see. What region does Saudi Arabia do its drilling? Eastern Province, Al-Aqsa region. Okay. They do onshore drilling and offshore drilling. I'm curious. Because this is their offshore stuff. Oh! Yeah, okay, so... okay, that's not good. Okay, where's the other region? The onshore drilling is the Ghawar field. Ooh. So it's all just the Strait of Hormuz it has to go through. Okay. Active drilling also occurs in the remote desert of the Rub al Khali. Yeah, you get to listen to my American ass try and pronounce this shit. Okay, well that could, I mean, honestly, they probably just have a deal with Oman to ship through here, but yeah, I won't lie, this shit's tough, man. So I'm gonna imagine Saudi Arabia's got a pretty big hit. I mean, if they're shipping oil through here, it's gonna take a price hike no matter what, having to go through all this shit, because this is like mountainous terrain, right? Is it? It's hard to tell. It doesn't look that mountainous. I mean, it looks like small mountains, you know, you're not talking no Himalayas or nothing. Wow, dude, the geology here is really pretty. Really cool to look at. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to imagine that it's pretty fucking difficult to get the oil from this side of the country to this side of the country economically. Or I mean, like in a cheap fashion, you know, that's what I mean when I say economically. So, you know, Saudi Arabia accounting for 7.85% of the oil is going to suck ass. The UAE, where's the UAE? This is a good time for me to learn my fucking geography. Okay, UAE. Oh yeah, we already covered that. So that's what? 3.35%, 7.85%, 17%. Yeah, that's a lot of shit, man. I mean, that's almost like 30%. It's just shy of 30%, right? I can't do math in my head. Like, I'm literally incapable of it. It's kind of crazy. Like, I don't know if that's a failure of public school or if I'm just stupid, but I can't do that shit. I think it's like 27% almost, maybe a little more than that, like 28%. So, that's fucking ass. And then there was this. California. Hold on. Let's actually do the math on these stats. Okay, yeah. So. Yeah, you get to watch my dumbass actually like copy and paste numbers into Google. I wonder how up to date these numbers are, right? Because if this is like old as hell or semi-recent, it could be totally different. 2.35, 7.85, and then where was it? Oh, Iraq. How do we get so much from Iraq? That makes no sense to me. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, okay, it's almost 30%. That's insane. Wow, almost 30%. Okay. California due to run out of oil before the rest of the USA. Severe localized. Okay. How matters. California passed a law to curb spikes in gas prices. Why isn't it using those powers now? That's so funny. Wow. The important thing to remember about all this. Oh, fuck, I forgot that my screen is cropped. You guys couldn't see half the shit I was doing. The important thing to remember here is that the lower gas prices go, the faster we're going to run out because supply isn't changing. And so if the prices are lower, then you still spend the gas, you still use the gas, but you can't do and it's like, oh, well, our oil reserves are, blah, 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 blah. How much of the U.S. oil stockpile can be released per day? 4.4 million barrels of crude oil per day. Under standard operating conditions, the U.S. Department of Energy can begin delivering this oil to the domestic marketplace within 13 days of presidential drawdown order. Yeah. California oil. Oh, wait. Let's factor that into thousands of barrels. Okay. So the total is 289,748. So they could cover California's loss, but you're not going to cover the rest of the country's loss. You're not going to be able to. Hold on, let's see. USA oil use per day, about 20.6 million barrels. So you can stockpile, you can mitigate the stockpile for a while, but how many millions of barrels in the U.S. stockpile? 418.2 million barrels. So you could do 100 days. It's actually pretty impressive. Or less than 100 days of oil releasing into the market to mitigate the blow. But at the end of the day, it's actually not as bad as I thought. But how much was the US per day? 20.6 million. So you can... it's actually not that bad, right? Because think about it. Okay. So if we take out... Or wait. How much of U.S. oil supply moves through the state? That's, oh my god. It moves. Let's see. About 7%. I don't know. I think we might honestly be able to mitigate this crisis. I don't know. I mean, I'm not an expert, but honestly, this doesn't seem as bad as I've been led to believe. If we're going to lose about 7% of the nation's oil, and California is going to lose about 30%, holy shit, of their oil, then I honestly don't see... Because all of this can be covered by the stockpile, and that can be going for about 100 days, or roughly slightly under 100 days. Let's see. What was the number again? Let's see, go 4.4. We're gonna... 418.2. 418.2 divided by what is it again? It was 4.4? Yeah, 4.4. Oh, wait, that's in the U.S. stockpile. Oh. 400,000. $4.4. What is 7% of 400,000? 7% of 400,000 is 28,000. So you do 28,000. $20,000 what? Jesus, my caffeine. How much is in the reserves? 418.2 million barrels. Oh shit, idiot. I don't even know what I'm doing, dude. I can't even comprehend this math. I just woke up. What the fuck am I doing? Oh Oh my god. Anyways, I don't think we're that fucked, but we're definitely fucked. Like, as a Californian, we're gonna have to completely shift our oil supply to domestic, like, or start buying more from Canada or something. The reality is that no matter what, like, everybody's oil supplies are gonna start shifting from certain countries to other countries, or from, you know, the Persian Gulf to everyone else's countries, every other oil producing country, right? And so, like, you know, at the end of the day, that whole market reconfiguration is going to spike prices, at least until something else can be, you know, figured out, per se, or not per se, but like the pajamas. Yeah, I don't know. I think big old Texas here is going to be put into overdrive. Well, I think the U.S. is the USA actually is the USA at maximum oil production capacity. I don't know. Let's listen to videos.
Number two, we actually set up the right mechanism to ensure the regional ceasefire to manage the inevitable conflicts that will come up. We feel great about that. We're working with our allies from the Israelis to the Gulf Arabs to make sure that sticks, and we feel very, very good about where that is. We have the Iranians allowing weapons inspectors, nuclear inspectors into their country for the first time in a long time. We're obviously going to bolster that inspection regime to make sure they can never have a nuclear weapon. And finally, we continue to make progress on these technical negotiations. We left a lot of our team, the Iranians left a lot of their team at the resort there to keep on working at it. So all in all, a very productive 36 hours. We're going to have to keep working it. The last point that I'll make is, as I told you all this morning, this is laying a foundation for what could be a truly transformed Middle East. But we haven't built the house yet. We're going to have to keep on building, and that's what we'll do.
Just in terms of the negotiations, you've said before that you've been cautious on these negotiations, that you believe that people are not always acting in good faith. Have things changed over the past 36 hours during your meeting with Iran and the other mediaries?
No, all I mean is, look, whether good faith or bad faith, you can't trust anybody's words. You have to trust what they actually do. Letting in the inspectors is a big deal, but again, we're going to see what they actually let the inspectors do once they're in the country. That's going to continually be a part of our negotiation. So my point is not that I trust or distrust anybody. My point is that I trust actions. And what the president has asked us to do is verify what they're doing, focus less on what they're saying.
Sir, you mentioned for the Iranians using these frozen funds
Sure.
To buy American soy, for example. Is that something that was raised yesterday that they've already agreed to? The Iranians have already agreed to that?
Yeah, that was something that came up yesterday, and we actually asked the Qataris to help us set up the mechanism so that we can ensure that the money goes.
Moment yesterday when Arachi came into the room and did not greet you, you guys did not shake hands, and then he walked out of the room. Did you feel snubbed by that? Did you feel it was an intentional move on their part? How did you interpret what happened?
No, I mean, I trust me, I've spent a lot of time dealing with the Iranians over the last few months. Sometimes I find them extremely confusing as negotiators. But look, we had a little press conference. They obviously don't quite have the same First Amendment protections in Iran that we have in the United States of America. We talked to you guys and then had a series of really good meetings. What I did find kind of funny is that after that initial meeting, there was this, sort of social media firestorm where everybody said the Iranians are going to leave, and then we proceeded to talk to them for like the next 9 hours. So I would just encourage the media, mistrust a little bit what you see coming out of Iranian social media. They can be confusing negotiators, but we feel like we're making progress. Thank you guys. Take care.
Welcome
See if
to
Democracy Now! Has any hot guests on for this topic. Criminal approach to politics. Keir Starmer resigns. Oh, that's actually kind of interesting. Maybe we'll get to that.
Mediators
upends
from
the Middle
Pakistan
East
and Qatar
balance
say
of
the
power.
U.S. and Iran made encouraging progress during 18 hours of negotiations in Switzerland, where the two sides agreed to a roadmap towards reaching a final deal within 60 days. Vice President J.D. Vance headed the U.S. delegation. Iran's parliament speaker, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, led the Iranian delegation. On Sunday, Vance said the U.S. wants to turn over a new leaf with Iran.
What the president has asked us to do is turn over a new leaf, to transform our relationship with the people of Iran and to extend an outstretched hand that says to the people of Iran that if your leadership is willing to give up being a driver of regional instability, if they are willing to give up nuclear weapons ambitions for the long term, then the United States is willing to fundamentally transform our relationship with that country. That is certainly our goal.
By fundamentally transform, they mean, please God, can we trade oil with you again? That's what they fucking mean. That's what they fucking mean. Fucking idiots.
The talks took place despite new threats from President Trump. On Sunday, Trump posted a message online reading, quote, Iran must immediately stop their highly paid proxies in Lebanon from causing trouble. If they don't, we'll hit Iran very hard, just like we did last week, only harder. 3 exclamation points. On Saturday, Iran announced it was closing the Strait of Hormuz after Israel killed 83 people in Lebanon. On Friday, Israel said it would agree to a new ceasefire in Lebanon, but is also refusing to end its occupation of southern Lebanon, where Hezbollah killed 4 Israeli soldiers Friday. For more on these latest developments, we're joined by 2 guests. Behrooz Gamare Tabrizi is a fellow at the Center for Place, Culture, and Politics at the CUNY Graduate Center. He was previously professor and chair of the Department of Near Eastern Studies at Princeton University. In the 1980s, he was on death row in Iran's notorious Evin prison. His latest book, just out this year, is titled The Long War on Iran, New Events, Old Questions. And we're joined here in New York by the Pulitzer Prize-winning reporter Spencer Ackerman, author of Reign of Terror, How the 9/11 Era Destabilized America and Produced Trump, and writes the Forever Wars newsletter. His latest piece is headlined, Iran's Forever Leverage. Let's start with you, Spencer, your assessment of where the U.S. and Iran have come to in their negotiations.
We've reached an astonishing point, a point that reflects how thoroughly the United States has lost this foolhardy war that the U.S. and Israel launched in February. If you'll remember,
what's this fucking outfit,
there was
dog?
Never any consideration that Iran would
Dude, it looks
close one of the
ridiculous.
world's most important economic waterways. Right now, unlike anything the
It looks
United
like
States or
fucking
Israel
awesome
thought it
power
would
strip.
achieve in this war, that is the main issue driving absolutely everything else.
Hold
And
on,
it's
I gotta
the
fill up
main
my vape.
issue that's prompted the United States to essentially give away the store. Unlike the JCPOA, the nuclear deal in 2015 that the Obama administration negotiated with Iran, this memorandum of understanding that the U.S. and Iran have signed to kick off a 60-day period of negotiations only in some aspects covers the nuclear file. What it mostly does is lay out a roadmap to a regional transformation that would have been astonishing previously to imagine. The United States is committing in this document, this signed document, to transform its military posture in the Middle East, to end all forms of sanctions on Iran, not in the staggered manner that the 2015 accord did, but apparently right now, the Iranians can sell oil, make money off of their oil supplies right now, and more fundamentally, the U.S. and Iran are now looking toward a new reality in which Iran's power has been demonstrated against what had been not just the reigning superpower in the world, but the driving force of Middle Eastern security.
I want to go to the Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian speaking Sunday.
We will not give up our rights to enrichment, and they, too, will be forced to accept it. You all know what the so-called President of the United States was saying. He has made a complete 180-degree turn. He was saying that Iran must surrender unconditionally Iran has no right to do this. It has no right to do that. Then he gave a speech and said that Iran has the right to do this. It has the right to possess this. In other words, he has reversed himself 180 degrees compared to his previous positions and has accepted that they cannot ignore our rights.
It's the Iranian president. Can you talk about the U.S. spin and go further into the details and how what has been accomplished at this point compares to what President Obama accomplished back in 2015.
Right. So you heard the vice president talk about how Iran has to transform its behavior, how its proxy support for militias like Hezbollah has to end. That's not actually in the MOU. The memorandum itself really puts the onus on the United States to both end its sanctions, all sorts of sanctions on Iran, secondary sanctions, which basically means the customers, the consumers of Iranian oil have sanctions on them as well. And as well, it makes the United States sort of responsible for Israel withdrawing from Lebanon, which the Israelis are not agreeing to do at this point. The actual terms itself we should be cautious on. I would not be surprised if what happened and the reason why this accord is so tilted in the Memorandum of Understanding toward the Iranian position is not only because Iran demonstrated it can withstand the United States in the war, but because the Trump administration needed this agreement so badly to reassure markets, to reassure, in particular, energy markets, and to get that energy flowing, that very likely the negotiators, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, just needed to give Iran basically the terms of the agreement in order to show that this process would in fact move forward. But right now, what's ended up is that the terms of this agreement are overwhelmingly tilted toward Iran.
I want to bring Behrouz into this conversation, Behrouz Gamari Tabrizi. You yourself were held in Evin prison on death row in Iran. You don't have a lot of sympathy, you didn't, for the, to say the least, the Iranian regime. Now a professor at CUNY, before that at Princeton. But can you talk about how that regime has changed, who is in power right now, what the U.S. has done in changing that regime?
First, thank you for having me again in the program. I think this was a war that was doomed from the beginning, and it was exactly because of a total misunderstanding of the Islamic Republic power structure. And this misunderstanding and ignorance about the power structure in Iran was partially promoted by the Israelis and American intelligence, and partially basically put forward by the mass media in the U.S. The misunderstanding was that, you decapitate the state and then it falls apart. And the reality, after 3 or 4 days of war, basically undermined that kind of understanding. And the second misunderstanding was that the relationship between the Iranian people and their state. And it is true that there is large segments of society are opposing the state in Iran, and they've shown their grievances in many different forms, and they were repressed and massacred by the Iranian government. But at the same time, that relationship did not translate into organizing to overthrow the state after the beginning of the war, and we saw that how people rallied around the flag, and despite their opposition to the state, they supported the war efforts that was organized by the Islamic Republic. And the third issue was that miscalculating the Iranian military power. And I want to borrow from Mao Zedong and his his notion of paper tiger. And for
Oh,
many
the paper
years,
tiger!
Americans thought that Iran is a paper tiger, and they're sort of seen formidable, threatening, and powerful. And while in actuality they're weak and ineffectual. And but in practice, they showed that not only they were not a paper tiger, but they were willing to withstand these attacks and in a very twisted way show that Americans seem like a paper tiger more than Iranians. And last but not least, the Iranians, the Islamic Republic always threatened that if there is a war against them, they're going to turn that into a regional war and force a global war. And the U.S. administration, President Trump and others, they thought that this is only a meaningless threat. And in practice, they did that and showed a particularly surprising resilience and survived this attack. And I think that the way now it's working and diplomatically, politically, the Islamic Republic focused.
This game.
Eve Online, oh my God, it's
With
Eve
so much on the
Online.
line, let's bring in our stellar panel here in studio. MS Now co-host of The Weekend Primetime, Imran Mohideen. MS Now senior Washington correspondent and co-host of The Weekend, Eugene Daniels. Also with us, Richard Haass, President Emerita of the Council of Foreign. Again, Eugene
Now-
Daniels. Also with us, Richard.
Look at that necklace. That's an interesting necklace. I like that necklace.
Haass, President Emerita.
I mean, like, I
of the
wouldn't
Council
wear
of
it,
Foreign
you know,
Relations.
but I
It's
do
good to
like
see
it
you
in
all.
theory.
Do you have a sense
Like
of
the
where
idea
this
of
all
it.
stands at this moment? Because it is hard to parse out what we're hearing from the president, what we're hearing from the vice president.
So I spoke to some of the mediators and people who were involved in these talks who are actually leaving Switzerland. And the short answer that I got from them was optimism, but cautious optimism. And I asked them, well, what's different about this time around? And the reality is not much, other than the fact that they were able to get the Americans and the Iranians into the actual room and kind of shorten the distance between the negotiators. I think there's still a lot of uncertainty, not necessarily about the mechanism that's going to go forward between the Americans and the Iranians, but the expectations as to what happens beyond the Iranian-American situation. And I say that because the way that it was kind of characterized to me is there are two sets of negotiations taking place simultaneously. The official track between the Iranians, the Pakistanis, the Qataris, and the Americans, but then also the expectations between what Iran wants with America vis-a-vis Israel and Lebanon, and what the Americans want Iran to do vis-a-vis Hezbollah in Lebanon. So in some ways, there are the nuclear talks that are taking place, and the thing that can derail all of that is what happens on the Lebanese front between Israel
The
and
Lebanese
Hezbollah in
front.
Lebanon. So I think those talks are not getting as much attention as the talks about the Iran program.
So two questions for you. If those tracks are happening on dual tracks, is there a sense of when those two tracks begin to merge? And two, in both rooms, are they just trying to treat Donald Trump like a non-entity? Are they saying, ignore what he's saying, he's not in the room, focus on the task before us?
So this, again, for the Iranians, they've kind of looked at the negotiations. And again, I've spoken to some of the Iranians who have been involved in this process. And they have looked at Donald Trump's posts and totally ignored them. They are not necessarily dealing with the threats. Of course, they respond to the threats, and they say that their armed forces are ready to respond in the event that Donald Trump follows through. But I think that by some account, I think there have been almost 7 different civilizational threats that Donald Trump has made against Iran, from like wiping out their civilization to sending them back to the Stone Ages to what we just heard right now, that you won't have an effing country to go back home to. I think ultimately the Iranians are kind of ignoring that noise and focusing on the words that are actually being put to paper inside the room. The question is, do the American negotiators, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, J.D. Vance, do they actually have any power to make decisions without the approval of Donald Trump? Are they making decisions and commitments that Donald Trump ultimately will not agree to once he actually sees or begins to understand what that final text is? And I think right now that's why there is this optimism. There's an optimism in saying, okay, well, what they're saying in the room gives these negotiators a sense of hope that there is perhaps a way forward. When it comes back to Donald Trump, that's a whole different other ballgame. And what happens between Donald Trump and the Israeli prime minister, that is even yet another ballgame, because the Israelis right now at least are signaling to the Americans they will continue to operate in Lebanon. The conditions of the ceasefire do not apply to them and do not apply to Lebanon. And that the prime minister came out today and said quite openly, the Israeli military has complete free range to operate in Lebanon as they have been doing. That immediately is going to put a wrench, if you will, in those negotiations between the Iranians and the Americans.
I think what's so key about what you just said there is when you talk to folks who know Donald Trump and have known Donald Trump for decades even, he does not care how you get to a deal, right? Like when he was here in New York figuring out how to be a hotel magnate, he did not care how you got to the deal. He just wants the deal to happen. And so when you have folks like Jared Kushner and Vance and Witkoff and they're having those conversations, I've been told that they do have a lot more kind of leeway because for Donald Trump, it's like, get the deal done.
Yeah.
Right. Especially because he's bored, as we've heard over and over again, with the Iranian negotiations.
Well, and that is part of where these threats are coming from. Richard Haas, this is what the president told a Fox reporter, quote, you close it and you won't have a country. You won't even make it back to your expletive country. Thank you, Eamon, for elucidating what that expletive was. We may take over the strait if we have to. If they don't make a deal, we'll collect tolls. The problem, Richard Haas says, was pointed out in the New York Times is what is Iran supposed to be afraid of? The main forms of deterrence Trump still has available are unpopular at home, and the Iranians know that. He sort of has backed himself into a corner here.
Yeah, those words, those threats, quite honestly, are empty. They're meaningless. As Eamon said, the Iranians have learned to scout them. Look, the reason for optimism is that neither side sees much upside in a resumption of serious hostilities. The United States wants the strait open, wants energy prices to come down, wants to focus on other things. Iran also wants the strait open, wants to start rebuilding its country. Plus, it's a really good deal for Iran. There's a lot of upside.
Ooh, SpaceX stock crashed. SpaceX stock crashed. Oh my. 10.2%. Holy moly. Elon Musk lost like 1/18 of his wealth. No, not even. Not even that. Not even that. Not even that. What's funny about it, right, is like, doesn't SpaceX technically own Twitter, which owns Grok, and aren't all of his companies funneled under one massive umbrella? So if you buy into SpaceX, or no, it's something like if you buy Twitter stock, SpaceX stock rises, and so it's kind of just this trickle up and trickle down effect where it's all kind of essentially I don't know. Let's see, is Forbes paid? No, you can read Forbes. Oh, wait. Yes, you can read Forbes. Oh, my. Holy advertisement of moly. Well, let's do a little zoom in here. There we go. Now I can get on camera, right? Okay. Sell-off in SpaceX shares extended on Thursday, erasing much of the rocket company's gains since its record-setting debut after its $60 billion all-in stock deal for AI coding startup Cursor sparked concerns among analysts. Shares of SpaceX declined more than 6%, just under $179 as of Thursday afternoon, extending Wednesday's deadline of nearly 5% and a 20% drive since hitting high above $225 on Tuesday. That marks a roughly $620 billion reduction in SpaceX's market value since its Tuesday peak, lowering to $2.37 trillion from about $2.99 trillion. Yeah, who fucking cares, man?
In it for Iran, so I don't take these threats at
It's
all.
not even real money, dude. It's just not even real money.
Your definition of optimism is that this thing is going to move ahead. I think it will. It's going to be rickety. You'll have in 60 days, Iran will introduce some tolls or whatever they'll call it with the strait. As you already pointed out, Alicia, in your introduction, this is not going to cover important things like ballistic missiles or drones or support for Iranians' proxies. The nuclear negotiations are going to be long, take years and years, and there's always going to be questions about Iranian compliance, access of inspectors. This is the future. This is going to be the new normal, and Iran's going to benefit economically, which will strengthen the regime, and it'll give them the resources they need to do some of these
my
things,
little
like
gamer
rebuild
chair. It's such a
or
gamer
help
right
groups
now.
like Hezbollah. So if your definition of optimism, is this likely to move forward? Probably, again, unevenly. If
Dude,
your
why is she
definition
kirking
of
it right now?
optimism,
She's
will
giving
this
that
leave us
Erica
better off?
vibe.
Then I'm afraid the answer is no.
Well, and some of that unease and that lack of optimism has been echoed by Republicans on Capitol Hill. I want you
Oh, let's
to
see
take
this.
a
This is
listen
gonna be fun.
to what some of them have said just in the past few days about
I
this
would
deal.
love to take a listen.
The Iranians have agreed to invite IAEA inspectors back into their country. That is a major milestone for the American people and the first step.
History demonstrates that sending billions of dollars to a theocratic lunatic who wants to murder us is a really bad idea.
Unfortunately,
What do you mean?
hundreds
You work for a theocratic lunatic who wants to murder us.
of dollars to support its terrorist
That's your whole
policies,
thing.
including Hezbollah. So I think that was a mistake.
Oh, no, I'm really idea.
Unfortunately, now Iran's going to have hundreds of millions of dollars to support its terrorist proxies, including Hezbollah. So I think that was a mistake.
Let's try a diplomatic solution. I think it's going to
gosh,
fail.
that's good.
If this deal fails,
I saw this
President
clip.
Trump is going to take the Strait of Hormuz over by force. If Iran contests control of the Strait of Hormuz by the United States, we'll obliterate them.
$5. That's how much I'm hoping
Oh
you'll
my
contribute
God.
to our campaign to
I love
take
you,
back.
Tarico, but skip it.
So I'm going to go back to your second definition of optimism, Richard Haas, which is if this in fact
Second
leaves the
definition of
United States
optimism.
or the
Oh my
region,
God.
barring Iran,
See my
in
e-boy
a better
cut
state
looking right now?
than
It is.
Donald
Putting
Trump
in that
found
work.
it. Is there anything that can happen in that room, in either of the rooms, as Eamon pointed out, that begins to move the negotiations in that direction, or given the basic framework that is at the table, or what we simply hoping for here is an off-ramp?
I think we're hoping for an off-ramp. I think what we can try to do through the negotiations is limit the cost of this venture. There's no way, though, we're going to come out through diplomacy with a Middle East that's better off. The Strait's not going to be more unconditionally open than it was. We're not going to have the Iranian nuclear program in better shape, and with better controls than existed. And we're obviously not going to be able to stop Iran's production of missiles or drones or support for proxies. So the short answer is no. What I'd really push back on is, though, is what Senator Graham is saying, that if this doesn't work, then we've got these wonderful military options. I mean, really. It's time for people, I think, to get
This guy
serious
knows what's
about
up.
what we
This guy knows the empire is falling apart. He knows it. He ain't willing to say it. He ain't gonna act like it up on TV and shit, but he knows it. He knows it. He knows it. Let's see. Let's just check out my subscriptions. Fuck it, dog. Rise of the Global South. Chris Hedges. Let's check if Chris Hedges has any bangers. Dude, he's so boring, though, but I love him. I love him. He's just like... He's not boring. He's just a really good listener. And so, like, if you want Chris Hedges' takes, you have to watch his lectures, which he makes, not lectures, but, like, his speeches. He makes great speeches. He's very, very, very smart guy. I love that guy. Very good guy. Anthropic is completely fucked. Trump-backed De La Espriella wins tight Colombian election. Judge rules about hearing in Charlie Kirk murder case.
Court is now in session.
Oh, dude,
Calling
isn't that an
case
actual
number
transcript?
251-403-576, State of Utah
Why are
versus
we doing
Tyler
a high-profile,
Robbins.
trial like that? You know, like, why are we doing it on a fucking... Dr. Cornell arrests Rashad Robinson, Stacey Davis Gates, and Dr. Nissim joins Travis Smiley. Kind of curious. It feels like a rip to watch another live stream, though. But Cornell West is my goat. I do love Cornell West like nobody's business. Why, dude, he's having a stroke in this. Why does he look like that? Hold on, can we not do shorts? Thank you. Who could have seen this coming? I don't know, Big A. I don't know who you are either. Most feared word in rocket science. I went to straight on the moose. It didn't go well. Inside the Discord
This is how a ramen brand
sweatshops.
reached over 1 billion people without using social media.
In my opinion, going to be,
how can I make people like me more? I asked myself this question
off
when
Discord.
reading about the rock band Geese. In 2025, Geese and their frontman Cameron Winter rose from relative obscurity to being labeled the saviors of rock and roll. Winter even became the muse of legendary filmmaker Paul Thomas Anderson. So how did they pull it off? Well, according to Wired, the rise of Geese was a psyop, engineered by a flurry of fake fan pages and algorithmic manipulation. The story sparked an ethical debate around modern
Dude, that's
marketing.
crazy because
Some
I
say this practice is no different than back in the day.
I know a
Music
girl,
labels
or
would
I
pay
didn't
off
know a
radio
girl who was
DJs
really
free
obsessed
show
with
and
Geese.
never
That's
to give their
hilarious.
songs more playtime. Others said that advertising should always be marked as advertising, plain and simple. Truthfully, I don't care about any of this. What I care about is taking Geese's playbook and copying it to a T. Ugh. You see, last month we released our investigation into the Man and Bean conspiracy. People really seemed to like it, and we even went on the news to talk about it. The only problem was, they didn't like it enough. And as everyone knows, affirmation on the internet is directly correlated to your value as a human being. So for the past 3 months, I spoke with journalists, military experts, 20-year-old clipping millionaires, and even Geese themselves, all to answer 3 questions. Number 1, how can I manufacture taste? Number 2, is any of this legal? And number 3, is anything on the internet real? So follow along on my quest to make people like me.
No, it's not. Get off the internet.
I began my investigation by reading more about Geesegate. According to Wired, Geese works with a marketing company that, quote, creates networks of social media pages and uses them to drive the band's music into the recommendation algorithm, manufacturing discourse around an artist. So they were running their own fan pages. Was this really that controversial? Maybe the journalists over at Wired were a bunch of haters.
Wow, dude, that shot probably took
Maybe
him
they
a
were
long
jealous
time to
of Cameron
film.
Winter because they, too,
You know, he was like, nah,
wanted
that
to
throw
use
looked
of Paul Thomas
manufactured, not
Anderson.
gonna throw it again.
Or maybe they were onto something. A specific word kept popping up in articles about Geese's sudden rise. PSYOP. This term has seen a resurgence in recent years, specifically among your Facebook-pilled grandma's favorite manosphere influencers. To learn more, I called up Sergeant Major Herb Friedman, a leading PSYOP expert and historian who has been quoted by outlets such as CBS News and The Washington Post. Unlike podcasters Sean Ryan and Chase Hughes, the 90-year-old Herb didn't have a large YouTube presence, which meant he had to earn my trust before I could take him seriously.
My first question for you, I'd love if you could introduce yourself.
Herb Friedman, an expert on psychological warfare because nobody's much interested in it. And,
Dude, holy shit, I do trust this guy automatically. Listen to him.
Friedman, an expert on psychological warfare because nobody else is much interested in it.
Expert in psychological warfare.
Just something to do when you get old and you want the little gray cells to keep popping.
Herb explained that PSYOP,
yeah,
psychological operations, refers to military campaigns
His
that are
name's
designed
Herb,
to get
too.
inside the heads
That's
of
extra,
adversaries.
that's extra game.
From the
right
infamous Trojan Horse to Operation Wandering Soul in Vietnam. It was almost like a Cheshire cat, using media and illusions to manipulate.
Hold on, what the fuck is Operation Wandering Soul? We gotta do some Google.coming on this. Let's pull this shit up. Gonna do some Google.coming real quick. Operation Wandering Soul. Okay, and then before I do that, we're gonna Google, is there a dark mode for Wikipedia? Because desktop and mobile platforms. Click the appearance menu represented by sliders, specs, and icons located at the top or bottom of the page. Oh! Oh my gosh, there's a dark mode on Wikipedia. Oh my god, I can be dark woke officially now. Okay, let's see what we got here. So, Operation Wandering Soul Warfare Campaign. It was a propaganda campaign and psychological warfare effort exercised by U.S. forces during the Vietnam War. It was an attempt to increase desertions and defections from Viet Cong forces and weaken their morale. It was also to coerce the Viet Cong forces into leaving and going home, weakening their numbers. Like most cultures, Vietnamese culture includes beliefs and rituals that show respect for the dead. Vietnamese culture calls for a proper burial and is believed that if this does not occur, the soul of the deceased continues to wander the earth, thus becoming a wandering soul or a ghost spirit. It's a Vietnamese belief that the dead must be buried in their homeland, or their soul will wander aimlessly in pain and suffering. Wow. Damn. U.S. engineers spent weeks recording eerie sounds and altered voices, which acted in roles of slain Viet Cong soldiers. The United States brought in South Vietnamese soldiers to record their voices over the tape for authenticity. One tape, dubbed Ghost Tape Number 10, included Buddhist funeral music and eerie sounds. In addition, there were voices of a girl saying, "Come home, Daddy," and voices of men telling them to go home and be reunited with their loved ones so that they can avoid the same fate that as he did. Jesus Christ! This is horrifying! Dude, this is some of the most despicable shit. Hold on, let's listen to this. Let's see, is there like an audio recording? Oh my god. Oh, Jesus. I probably can't show that on stream. This is the whole... Yeah, that's the whole podcast. We are not listening to that. Haunted mixtape of the Vietnam War. I wonder if there's like a...
In the green, they brought it to Vietnam, but they...
Yep. We are talking about a haunted house.
Start cracking.
This
very upset.
Also. And Eli Noel.
Okay, we can agree on.
Yeah, no, we're not doing that. Okay, well, there was an audio file. Okay, Ghost Tape Number 10. Dude, we're an evil country. Holy. Dude. This is like, oh my god.
Nhưng tôi còn đâu mấy nghìn hàng nữa. Tôi đã chết rồi mà con bây giờ. Tôi hẳn không.
Okay, like I'm listening. I can't do that much more. But holy shit, dude, that's so fucked. That's honestly, this is like on par with the Israeli drones playing fucking baby noises to lure out mothers into the streets. Yeah, of course, to kill them. Hold on. Oh god, that was like definitely glorifying it. Whatever video that was. Where's the fucking Al Jazeera investigates?
يا جماعة الخير قوات كابتر قتلت صوت أطفال الآن من مخيم انصارات. امبارح استشهدوا شاب طلع مسكين يشوف إيش الصوت في مدرسة طبعا طلع والله لقى صوت.
In mid-April, we were informed that Israeli quadcopters were emitting bizarre sounds, including baby sounds or women screaming. I went personally to Nusayrat and I interviewed several Palestinians separately, and the testimonies were almost identical. Quadcopters were for 2 consecutive nights on the 14th and the 15th, I guess, of April. They were emitting baby sounds, playing sounds of screaming women. The quadcopters apparently played these sounds only to lure citizens out of their homes and to find someone to shoot. And this was confirmed by actually the reports that we followed up on at hospitals. There were cases of people getting injured by these quadcopters after going out to figure out what was the sound to try to help.
طبعا الساعة 1 في الليل فجأة سمعنا مرة بتزعق في نص الشارع. الحقوني النجدة ومعها عيل صغير، يعني صوت عيل صغير بيطلب النجدة معها. الصوت كان بيطلع من عباب الدار. كوادكوبتر من 4 مراوح. طلعت برضه بين الخيم وقعدت تزعق ونفس الحاجة. رنينا ابن عمي في الخيم قلنا له واحد يطلع ده. لكن نظام صوت. أبو أنس الشحرور عندنا في المنطقة في راسه.
ولا بنسوي شيء ولا بنسوي شيء، احنا قاعدين بدون مكيفين حل عنا.
What the fuck? I didn't even know this. They have drones with just guns on them? Like, I mean, I knew that this was, like, you know, part of what was happening in the, like, the military sphere, but I didn't realize that we just had, like, drones with guns attached to them that would just, like, laser onto you. Like, I thought that was, like, something we were working on. I mean, I know also that Israel is just, like, a testing ground for all kinds of, like, devil technology, or not Israel, you know, occupied Palestine, but you know what I'm fucking saying. Like, oh my god. My absolute, like, one of the most, like, I think it's Lattice, I think, Mission Autonomy. Like, so if you go, sorry, the website is, like, zoomed to my resolution on my monitor, because I'm on an ultra wide and I try and condense it, but, here, let's see if I can center my camera a little better. There we go. And zoom out a bit. Oh, that's the wrong way. There we go. So, okay, Fight Unfair. Ah, classic. And I just saw a thumbnail of a YouTube video the other day that said that cruelty was a new status symbol, and I completely agree that it is. I think that cruelty is a representation of how little the law applies to you, which is a representation of how, you know, essentially how powerful you are and how much money you have. Okay, somewhere on the Anduril website, there is a, maybe it's in the Connected Warfare tab. There's a Menace. Why are you naming your fucking things after, like, evil shit? Why are we just, like, pro-evil now? Oh my god. Where is it? Well, somewhere on the Anduril website, there's some fucking devil technology that it uses the term AI-powered kill chain. And I just found out recently, 1 in 7 bombs in the Iran war, or the US war against Iran, right, were dropped at the direction of Grok. Grok AI. Hold on. This isn't the exact statistic the article used. 1 in 7 bombs in Iran war dropped by Grok. Let's see. Yeah, okay. Yeah, here we go. This is it. Pentagon used Elon Musk's Grok AI. What is this advertisement? Hydraulic shears, press brakes, and C-frame presses. Bet and Bender. All right. 2,000 missiles at Iran, officials say. Okay. How many missiles shot at Iran? 13,000. 13,000 divided by 2,000. Not that I could have just done. Yeah, so 6.5. So almost 7. Almost 7. Jesus. Within 96 hours is crazy. 2,000 munitions in 96 hours. It's insane because like we're losing a war and we're like from a strategic military standpoint, you have to be insane to be testing like decision-making capabilities that have never been tested before. Like you have so much riding on this war if you're Donald Trump and you're just letting Hegseth pull out like Grok AI to do his fucking work. Like, oh, I'm not even like, I'm glad the empire is falling apart. Like, this is just ridiculous, but it's just insane to me. It's insane to me. Hold on, I want to get it like somewhat like that. That's probably better. It's a crazy, crazy, crazy situation. I don't know how to like. Anyways, let's go back to the original Operation Wandering Soul thing. The overall success of these ghost tapes was mixed because in the event that the Viet Cong soldiers knew it was just a recording, their immediate response would be to fire upon where the sound was coming from, though this in turn revealed their hidden positions within the jungle. The Army concept team had been... Okay, so its only effectiveness was just a baiting out some kind of bullshit. Okay, back to the PSYOP.
Your target's perception.
So in the past, you've said that PSYOP is closer to public relations than it is to brainwashing, right?
It's exactly the same thing.
Walk me through a PSYOP campaign from start to finish. Is there a specific style? Is there a specific...
Just to go back to what you said, PSYOPs was not well known in World War II, particularly in the Marines. The Marines basically wanted to kill Japanese. They didn't want to PSYOP them. They had no interest in being their buddies. But there was some Marine...
Early on in our conversation, it appeared like Herb was more interested in promoting his blog than answering my carefully prepped questions.
By the way, I've written articles about everything, so...
Okay, hold on, I'm going to check my audio.
Saipan. The website is SaiWarrior.com. I'm not pushing that. I'm just letting you know that if I mention a subject, that means I wrote about it.
But there was no free talking to see if I had to reel her back in.
So I was reading this CBS story from 2011. There's some pretty interesting PSYOP campaigns that have come up over time. Some that you've written about.
This needs to get turned down.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
About 90% of all the pornography in World War II came out of Germany and Japan. And I talked to the fellow that did them. And I said, how could you...
I talked to the fellow that did them.
Bestiality, and there was child sex, and there was, oral sex and anal sex. And I said, how could you have done that?
This is a wild lineup.
In the next 10 minutes, Herb proceeded to explain in exquisite detail how the Axis powers would drop pornographic leaflets from airplanes in an attempt to make American
okay, I think my mic is actually the wrong mic right now. The quality sounds so off.
The military was full of a bunch of little freaks.
What it was, so what the Germans and the Japanese didn't realize, they weren't making us feel worse. They were making us feel better. They gave us something to do. They gave us something to collect and something to
There we go. That is probably a lot different. I'm not gonna lie. Let's see.
Just to interrupt you briefly, you're saying that some of these pornographic pamphlets that the Germans and Japanese were producing.
Okay, let me test this out. I gotta start talking again.
Okay, let me test this out. I gotta start talking again. It was a long time, and you had to amuse yourself.
Alright, there we go. I think it's a good volume.
Eventually, I steered the conversation towards geese. What did Herb think about the band's marketing tactics?
I think most importantly for the context of our conversation, I'm curious why you think Wired used the term PSYOP.
Because they didn't have a clue what PSYOP is. The PSYOP officers have to follow certain rules. One of the rules is you must tell the truth. You're not allowed to lie, because if you lie, the first time you're caught in a lie, everything you say now has been discredited. Now, if you want to lie, you can lie. But then who do? Pick up the phone, and you call up those guys over in Langley.
Essentially, Herb was saying that the CIA does employ disinformation campaigns to enact change in other countries. But PSYOP is something different entirely. more similar to simple persuasion. With our time running out, I made sure to ask Herb one last question.
So put yourself in my shoes. Hypothetically speaking, you're a journalist, right? Looking to get his work seen by more people. What tactics can you learn from PSYOP to get more people to essentially like you?
Be very clear, and I would say I wouldn't go too far astray. I mean, I would be careful how I worked. Try not to insult anybody, and that's kind of hard sometimes because there's a lot of stupid people out there.
Herb is the GOAT, bruh.
Following my conversation with Herb, I realized something. Unless I wanted to rent an airplane and drop leaflets from the sky, I would need to do more than just a PSYOP to get attention online. Everyone around me seemed to be on their phones all of the time. How could I break through the noise?
A round of applause to everyone that watches my streams. For the first time in 30 days, we hit 1 billion clipping views on all platforms.
Whenever I opened up social media myself, I kept seeing clips of a 21-year-old streamer named Neon. I'd never heard of him, and I certainly never
Oh my
watched
god,
his
dude.
streams.
I
He
hate
seemed to be everywhere.
I hate Gen Z like slop tubers like this, dude. I hate them so much.
For this streamer Neon.
Neon, do you actually pay clippers $1 million a month? Yeah, I told myself I'd never talk about this, but fuck it.
As it turned out, it felt like Neon was everywhere because he was spending millions of dollars on so-called clippers.
I'm Sydney Bradley. I'm a senior reporter at Business Insider, where I cover
Jesus Christ.
tech and media.
To learn more about clipping, I called up a journalist who has reported on it previously.
My first question for you, what do you think about the band Geese?
Okay, so I'm actually a pretty big Geese fan. Also a big Cameron Winter fan, and I don't typically see my music interests overlap always with my work life. But when I came into work a couple weeks ago and Geese was on the homepage of Business Insider, I was like, oh no, the worlds are converging.
After trading takes on the best songs in Geese's catalog, we dove into the subject at hand.
Walk us through what clipping is.
In the most basic sense, it's taking clips from longer form content, whether that's podcasts or live streams, and putting those into really viral, snackable little clips that you see more so in the short form video format. Anything that you can clip will be clipped at this point. And the thing about it is, like, it still has to be good. Like, you
I don't really see this being about I mean, the title is Discord Sweatshops, and then he starts going on about this. Doesn't feel like a very focused video, I'm not gonna lie.
Traditional EDI operates in a world where every partner...
What the fuck is EDI? I can't wait for the collapse of corporate America.
4 more years, Gulf of America. Of course, the classic Make America Great Again in various shapes and sizes and colors and bundles for you and all your friends. But really, TrumpStore.com has everything. They've got shot glasses, wine glasses, liquor glasses, beer glasses, teddy bears, kitchen essentials, robes and linens, skincare, pickleball paddles, dog collars, blankets, candles...
Pickleball paddles?
Shoelaces, ties, and pins. For some reason, they sell a $1,200 deck chair on here. It's just a humongous mess of stuff. They've got keychains, sneakers, shirts, jackets, vests, pajamas, tote bags, jewelry, workout clothes, an entire section for golf supplies, and a $550 purse that has the words Trump in Swarovski crystal that's listed as gold, even though they only sell it in silver. Actually, though, I kind of do like this. The USA 250 anniversary hat that features the Liberty Bell, a bald eagle, the Statue of Liberty, Mount Rushmore, and the American flag all embroidered on one trucker hat. This might be the nicest thing on here. This is probably what happens when you go to an Alibaba supplier and say, hey, take my logo and put it on one of everything you have. There's no vision, no style, no aesthetic. It's just merch slop. Regardless of my opinion, though, the point is the Trump Store makes a ton of money. Known on paper as T Retail LLC, TrumpStore.com has been around since 2017 when Trump first became president. And since then, it's generated between $18 and $20 million in sales. This is the first time an American president has sold merch while in office, let alone
Yeah, that's kind of insane.
$1 a year while doing so. But if you're wondering what
The
this
merch
means,
shop, the presidential merch shop.
it means nothing. Did you guys really think I was going to make an entire 40-minute video where the entire point is just me crying that the president selling millions of dollars worth of bedroom slippers and shot glasses on an online merch store is a symbol of the rapidly approaching death of the United States?
Presidential merch
Okay,
shop.
I lied. That actually is
Kinda
exactly
crazy.
what I think that means. But the deeper I started to look at how the Trump family is making money right now, the online merch store started to look downright innocent. But more importantly, I'm late for an appointment to go get my new watch.
Gotta put that sepia filter on this shit. Gotta do it.
This is the Fight Red Beauty timepiece, a $499 watch sold by Trump Watches. It looks and feels like something you could get behind the counter at a bodega in Chinatown. Do you guys hear that? This is my Tissot. This is the nicest watch I have. I've had it for 2 years, worn it almost every day. This is my brand new Trump watch.
Yeah, it's wild.
Incredible. This watch represents something that's never happened before in
It's
American
wild.
history. The president is running a business empire in the White House.
That's the real deal. That's the real deal.
What the fuck?
Trump Mobile.
Trump Mobile, hell yeah.
Go to gettrumpwatches.com. It's Trump time.
But the watch is really just the funny part. The $3 million.
I wonder if Trump's never sleeping because he's always alternating between days working on politics and working on exploiting the economy and then also working on merch. You know, like, I'm sure he has a team doing all the merch shit, and I feel like I've seen like a good amount of like Trump slop things where I'm like, okay, hold on. Let's see the Trump donation ads. Okay, I've always been skeptical of like the Trump like please donate today kind of ads. They almost look like they're AI. It looks to me as though they like film Trump saying something and then just kind of put his head on top of his body. I'm doing good, Darian the artist, or Dian the artist. What's up, Dian the artist? How are you doing? I've always been skeptical of these. Hold on, let's see if I can find one of them. Donate to the Trump campaign. Is there any particular pressing issues you're looking into lately, Dian the artist? Okay, let's see. I'm not gonna be able to find the advertisements. Advertisements. Maybe it's just on his YouTube channel. There's a good chance. No. We'll see Trump Facebook ads, maybe. I mean, no, I'm from California. I got my Californian flag in the background. You'll see that shit. There you go. Yeah. When I bought it, everyone, or not everyone, when I bought it, the people selling it were like, yeah, we've been selling a lot of these. And I'm like, huh, makes sense. And they're like, yep. People don't want to rep the US flag anymore. They're repping the fucking California flag, in this state at least. Okay, I wanna like see the actual raw advertisements, like Trump Facebook ad. Maybe, I mean, this is probably different. Oh my god, dude, we're such a cornball country, dude. Oh, I get you, yeah. Nice to meet you as well. Nice to meet you as well. We're such a cornball fucking country. Oh, is this? Oh, here we go. This is gonna be a banger.
Nothing worth doing ever came easy. Treat the word impossible as nothing more than motivation. Never quit. Never quit.
Manchester, what are your opinions on the fucking everything that's been going down, the race fucking riots and shit? I honestly, I haven't been paying much attention to those, so I'm curious. But if you got any hot takes on them, now's the time. Yeah, I haven't been paying much. Or didn't Keir Starmer just get fucking? I don't even know where fucking Manchester is on maps. So Keir Starmer announces resignation. Okay, so like I don't even know. Keir Starmer, is he in the Labour Party? Yeah, he's Labour Party, and Labour Party runs right now. Like they're the dominant party, right? I don't know, I took one political science class and they briefly covered the UK.
Victories like this one should make a leader impregnable in office. But Keir Starmer started with low net favourability, from which his ratings fell further. There were brief upticks when he first met Donald Trump or later resisted joining Trump's Iran war. His ratings hovered around the lows of Boris Johnson and Liz Truss. His idea of change was calm after their storms.
No, I mean, fair enough. Fair enough. Hold on. Let's put on the, damn, there's a sleep timer setting on here? That's insane. Hey, Twitch, fair enough, yeah. Okay, the Labour Party is supposed to be like the left wing of the UK, right? That's my understanding. Like, I don't know. Is he resigning because of the riots or whatever? Or is he... I don't know. I've always been interested in politics, and I was like a day one Vosh viewer for the longest time. Recently, I started watching Hassan, and I pretty much spend all of my time. Dude, holy shit! This translator at the bottom is going crazy. Holy shit! Look at him. I don't know. I think there's like. Resign, you can do it. Attack comment. Oh, you can't even see that. At the top here it says resign, you can do it. Oh man. Yeah, I don't know. I've just always kind of been interested in the sociology and political science ever since I was like 16, and I feel like, yeah, I mean, I do, but I don't actually stream very often. I'm trying to make a habit out of it though. I really want to. What I realized is like I already spend like 3 to 5 hours like researching politics a day because I'm just autistic about it. And so it's like, why am I not doing that on stream, you know? And like my commentary is irrelevant for the most part. Like I can just sort of be a filter for like, you know, if all I do is look at the story and like put each story together and tell a broader story about, you know, like the Iran war, you can watch any number of segmented clips about like each each like, I don't know, event that happens in the war. Yeah, science is not for me. Well, political science is not much of a science. It's more so just I mean, it is a science, but it's like, you know, you're just studying patterns and trends. You're not actually like fucking, you know, obviously you don't have a microscope. You know what I mean? But I don't know, if I could take like each individual moment in one story as it develops over time and bridge all of those moments together just to tell one simplified, broader version of the story, I think that's worth tuning into, right? I do play games. I play a lot of Magic the Gathering, but it's kind of hard to play it on stream because, hold on, let me boot up the Magic the Gathering client. I just want you to see the pain and suffering that goes into being a Magic player. It's so horrible. I played DayZ too, which is also like so boring. It's insane. This is the Magic client. This is the shit you have to put up with. Watch these loading times. Look, I'm just going to go to play lobby. Look at this. Look at this shit. I don't play horror games very often. I have in the past. Yeah, and look at this. It's fucking tweaking out. The whole client is just like, watch. I can crash it right now if I click on buttons. Okay, it's crashed. Oh, actually it loaded. Damn. Yeah, let's see my Steam library here. Yeah, so I've got like, I play some Counter-Strike. Cyberpunk, I've beat Cyberpunk a couple times. Got 311 hours. I don't know, I like a lot of story games. Oh, I played Still Wakes the Deep. Loved this game. Still Wakes the Deep was a great horror game. Really good. Really good. Obviously like GPU intensive, but I work in restaurants. I don't have much of a profession, I wouldn't say. I work in restaurants right now. I'm only like 24 years old, so I'm not like, very profession based, but yeah. Yep, there it is. Now I crashed Magic Online. Oh, it figured itself out. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, I work in restaurants. It's a lot of pain and suffering. I got 2 jobs at the moment. I serve at a hotel restaurant, and then I serve at like a I don't know, like sort of a fancy bar, like a cocktail lounge kind of thing. I don't really know how to explain it better than that. What about you? What's your profession? You're the artist, so I would assume you're an artist. Are you gonna try and sell me some Twitch banners and things? Cause I did that once and I regretted it. I see. Yeah. When you're not doing like digital art, like how did you get into art? What kind of art do you make? Like what is there a higher passion to what you do? Is there something you really wish you could do with your art and like a place you could go with it?
Covers diplomacy. I keep looking at these MOUs and these tentative agreements that fall apart almost 6 days later, and I don't understand.
Here, let me. This is when I thought I was gonna stream Magic online, which I'm so glad I didn't. But hold on, let me pull up my art on the second screen here. We're gonna go like this. Nice. Do you have like a medium when you're not like doing digital art? Or I mean, I'm assuming you're doing digital art, but do you have like a medium that you prefer? Oh my god, dude, I have a folder of all the Epstein files on my fucking secondary drive. Damn, digital art since 13. How old are you now? Twitch overlays, I found it. Custom pack. Let's see. Yeah, so I was gonna do like a gothic theme, like all of this, and it's like the idea is cool, but oh, you're 26. Damn, so you've been doing it for 13 years. That's impressive. See, I got like this gothic theme that I was gonna do, and it was like cool, and it's all animated and fun, but I don't know. Let's see this one. Stream ending. See you next time. Like I don't know. It was a cool idea, but it's because my Magic Online. No, I didn't make this. I paid someone else to make it. They came into my Twitch chat and offered, and I was like, yeah, sure. I regret it. It cost me too much. Let's see. I don't even know what some of these are. Yeah, like some of them are just Twitch panels. Like it's a full kit, but I realized that like I think I'd rather have like just sort of an open display like this. Like, I mean, you can't see my crosshair, but you know, I just realized like a lot of here. Let me see if I can find you like the actual transition screens. I think screens is what I want. Ending start now. Banner? Or maybe it's in overlays. Let's see. Okay, yeah, like some of okay, so see this, like it has this like recent follower, recent subscriber, recent donation. I don't think I really want that. Like I don't know, maybe I do. But it's like it's kind of limiting in the sense that like see how it like cuts off so much of my screen. Like this would be the chat on the right here. Yeah, I could put banners on my channel. I know. I don't know. Like maybe the chat thing would be worth it. I don't know. It just seems like what I do want is I do want like a sort of a shadow on the right so that you can read the chat better. But I don't know if that's like honestly going to obscure the screen too much or what the problem is. Or what the deal is with that. I haven't really thought too much about it. I just kind of set this up and like I was running the banners and everything for a while, but it's just I think the problem is that it's like one, the aesthetic, I don't really like this aesthetic anymore. You know, I kind of obviously I have like my own little thing with Twitch here that I'm doing, like you know, you can see my thing here, which okay, one thing I would do is I would pay someone to make like logos that aren't AI, because I made these like a long time ago and since have like a lot worse of an opinion of AI. Obviously like the donations thing that was made for what's it called, that was made for my by like AI, and then like I don't even know, can I just go to my channel here? Yeah, no, I can't even find it. Here, let me pull up my YouTube channel. That might be a little better. Yeah, like you can see like I have like this shitty little banner here. Oh fuck, I don't know if I should be going there, but I don't know. And like I have this like little aesthetic going, but I think what I would really want is like I just want it to not be AI, because I feel like AI is unethical and I'm kind of being a hypocrite when my entire politics is about channel or about or my entire channel is about politics, holy shit. And then I go and I have like a big AI logo. You know, it's like kind of a dumbass move, you know? It's very I don't know. I think you get my point. Look at this. Inception right here. Inception. Wait. No, I gotta go this way. Wait, no, go like this. No, that way. Yeah. And then all my arms are gonna go whoosh, 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 whoosh. Great. Isn't that awesome? Yeah. I don't know. I think you get the point though. Yeah. I don't know. Like I'm too broke. Like I'm moving out of this apartment. I'm moving back in with my parents after this. So yeah. I'm moving back into my parents after this. So like I couldn't pay anyone right now, but you know, like eventually that's something I would want to do. It's also like one of those things where it's like if you pay the money, you might be actually more motivated to stay consistent. And that's kind of like something that I kind of live by. Like I have my entire setup, like it's an expensive setup and it's very motivating to see it every day. And like I've got my home workout thing over there, and you know, yeah, it's not even really like, I mean, it's a fucking logo. Like you can't really fuck it up. Like even if you just like pulled stock images and like mashed them together and did a little bit of Photoshop to just touch it up, that would be like, in my opinion, infinitely better than an AI logo. Because I mean, like seriously, you've seen it. Like it's not a fucking complex little logo. Like I've got a little ghost with some headphones on. And even that, I'm like, I don't even know if that's like what I want it to be, you know? But I don't think that AI can make better art, you know? I think I had here, let's see. See if I can open just the image. Yeah, like I don't think AI can make better art. I think that AI can like, you know, make renderings. I don't know. It's not like making art. I feel like there's a definition to art that is like a little more, yeah, like, and like I said, even this, it feels a little unoriginal and like not really what I'm interested in. I do like the static idea, and I like the, you know, I think I have a good brand with my name and everything, but I feel like tying it all together is kind of difficult. I don't know. Or not tying it all together, but like it's difficult to like create images that you can apply to every single thing, you know, like my my banner image, like hold on, let's see. Can I get like to my, hold on, just go to my channel here. Like the banner image isn't even really a banner image. You see, it's just like this crop of my logo, you know? And so it's just, I don't know, it feels stupid. I don't know. Like if I had a banner image here that actually had like text on it and, you know, was like a logo in the center or something, text on the sides or whatever, you know, that would be cool. But I'm not particularly gripped by the idea that, you know, that's what's gonna sell my oh my god, I have a YouTube video up here on Magic. I didn't even know that. 2 months ago, I didn't even know. Oh, I do remember making this, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's worth it. I think at the moment, like eventually it's worth it, but what I should be doing is focusing on making consistent videos and things like that. Although I do have this like sort of it's like the opposite of a lost cause fallacy. It's like if I invest time and energy into something, it then motivates me to continue doing that. But the problem with that is I reach a point of burnout. And so that's when I get inconsistent. And so for like a week or so, I'll stream consistently every day, and then I reach burnout. And I think there's got to be like a structure to it, which is where I know how to stop myself, you know? And I think putting that energy in is where I need to be before I go and start tying together all the aesthetics. For now, it's broke boy stuff. I can just, you know, do all that. But yeah. Hold on, I really got to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. I'm super caffeinated. Did you see my gun in the background? Probably not. Yeah, a foreign concept for a UK viewer. That thing right there. Oh man. Yeah, I don't know. You should send in some of your work though. I'm down to see what your work looks like. Cause like, you know, I think more than any Twitch overlay, I just want banners and a logo, you know? Yeah, it's real. Here, I'm not gonna pick it up because it's against TOS, but I will show you my big block of Soviet ammunition. This is 440 rounds. Yeah, it's not against TOS to have them in the frame, but like brandishing a weapon or like you know, there's like very vague rules. So you know, it's just honestly it's just for decoration. I think I kind of like it as a prop. Usually I keep it in a safe with 4 locks on it. So I just think it's a fun prop in the background. It gets attention, you know. But yeah. Here, I'll show you what it is. This is the thing. California law has me change it up a little bit, but yeah, it's about a $3,000 gun. I don't know if I want to share my well, I guess yeah. Here, I'll private message you. I don't want to put it in the chat just for like obvious reasons. I don't know why. But oops, sorry. Pull up your fucking shit on stream. Can I private message you? Is that a thing you can do? Anyways, just take the gun off the screen. How do I do that? I don't even know how to do that. Fuck it. I'll just put it in the chat. No one's gonna be fucking spamming my Discord anyways. No one cares. Alright. Now I just gotta figure out how to pull it up. I'm such a boomer when it comes to this shit. Like, I barely know how to navigate Discord, let alone, Oh, I have streamer mode enabled. That's why I'm having trouble. Like, isn't there like a 4-letter code that you're supposed to find that... How do I turn off streamer mode? Oh my gosh, I'm such an idiot. Hardware acceleration, chat box, search, streamer mode. Okay, there it is. I'm just gonna give you my username, I think? I don't know. Oh fuck, I'm not logged in on OBS. Well, I use Streamlabs, I think, actually, but I have to go to my webcam or to the internet to post it. Okay, try. I don't know exactly how it works, so just try that. And then if that doesn't work, hold on, now I can't even see my chat. What the hell? What the hell? What the hell? What have I done to myself? Oops. Let's see. Maybe if I collapse the chat window again. Nope, that didn't do it. What the fuck? Oh, there we go. Okay, I have no idea. I have no idea what I just did. Okay, yeah, can you send me a invite or like a friend? Okay, friends. Are you, Basil? No. Pending. Are you Hogwarts? Ah, I see. Okay, awesome. Alright, send it over. Let's see this stuff. Here, I'll just switch to webcam at this point. And I'll zoom out too. It's fucking weird. There we go. Oh, the little Discord notification. Lovely. Move my laundry out of frame. I see. Okay. Very nice. Here, I'll pull it up on stream. Hold on. I'm gonna switch frames again. Very nice. Oh, oops, that's only showing me. Oh, whoa, so okay, you do a very diverse array of stuff. Oh, sorry, I'm not gonna do the audio, but yeah, damn. Yeah, see, I mean, you've got like the simplistic logos, and you've got the animated like sort of overlays. Nice. It's good work. Yeah. I mean, like, this is pretty, like, you know, this is the sort of simple, like, logo I would need, except probably just a little bit less detailed. You know, like, obviously you've seen mine, it's pretty straightforward, so, yeah. I don't know. Oh my gosh, what is this? Matt Morse TV. Yeah. I like how there's a ChatGPT advertisement on a video called AI does something horrifying to the human thinking, or to human thinking.
And if you haven't seen it, you probably had one of two reactions. Either, well, obviously, AI is destroying education, or this is overblown moral panic, or, you know, maybe you had a third reaction, which was, wait, college students were reading before this? As someone who has graded papers...
I don't know, I think I'm pretty good on the, I think I'm pretty good on the logo thing. Like I said, it's going to take a long time before I want to spend more money on this channel, you know?
The studies, the MIT brain imaging data, the Carnegie Mellon survey of knowledge workers, the large-scale cognitive assessments, the counterpoint studies that say AI can actually improve learning under the right conditions. And what I found is more nuanced, more interesting, and more important than any headline is going to give you, because this is ultimately not just a story about students, but rather a story about what happens to human cognition, yours, mine, everyone's, when we start outsourcing our thinking to machines, and it has implications that go well beyond the classroom. My name is Elle, I have a PhD in computer science, and I analyze AI developments to understand what's actually happening beneath the hype, which is basically a very polite way of saying I spend my weekends reading 80-page PDFs, so you don't have to. You're welcome. Please don't ask about my social life, though. In this video, I'm going to walk through what the science actually says about AI and how we think, both in children and adults.
I'm good for the moment, man. I appreciate it.
Because both of those exist. Then I want to
That's kind of why I asked you like towards the beginning if you were gonna try and make me artwork for my channel, is because I didn't really want to like waste your time, you know. As much as I appreciate you being my only viewer, I'm good. I appreciate it though.
And the best way to support this work and keep it free and without any gatekeeping at all is through Ko-fi or a channel membership. The links to everything are down below. Now, let's start with the research, because the research is where the nuance lives. As always, academic papers can be pretty dense, but my job here is to translate it so we can all have the same conversation irrespective of our background knowledge. I won't use any jargon, I promise. If I accidentally say backpropagation or stochastic gradient descent, feel free to unsubscribe, but please don't, just judge me in the comments instead. Anyway, the study that generated the most attention is from MIT's Media Lab, a preprint titled Your Brain on ChatGPT by Cosmina et al. 2025. The researchers fitted 54 participants aged 18 to 39 with EEG headsets that measured brain activity across 32 neural regions while they wrote SAT-style essays. One group used ChatGPT, one group used Google Search, one group used nothing, just their own brains.
I remember when the study came out.
26 feels less like a control group and more like
What was funny about this study is I read the study, or I skimmed it, I briefly looked over it, and then I went into, I think my environmental science class started, and I went in and they had me pick between a list of studies, and this was one of them. And it was our first assignment, is just to make sure we understand how much of an idiot we are to use ChatGPT.
They had total cognitive amnesia. They were basically living out the plot of The Hangover, but instead of waking up with a tiger in a hotel room, they just woke up with a 2,000-word essay on The Great Gatsby that they had absolutely no memory of creating. Their brains basically went into screensaver mode the moment they hit enter. Now, important caveats here. This is a preprint. It has not been peer-reviewed yet. The sample size is 54, which is very small. A 2026 critique by Stankovic et al. Flags methodological concerns. These are preliminary findings that need replication at scale, not settled clinical results. But the directional signal is consistent with every other study in this space. And the finding I want to highlight is this. In a fourth session, the ChatGPT users were reassigned to write without AI. Their brain activity did not return to normal. The cognitive debt persisted even after the tool was removed. So your brain essentially goes, oh, we're not doing the thinking thing anymore? Cool, I'm just going to take a nap in the corner. And then it just refuses to wake up. The Carnegie Mellon and Microsoft study 2025 is more robust. 319 knowledge workers, peer-reviewed, published at the CHI conference. The researchers analyzed 936 real-world examples of AI-assisted tasks and found a very clear pattern. The more confident a worker was in the AI's ability to complete a task, the less critical thinking they applied. Workers who trusted their own expertise evaluated AI output carefully. Workers who trusted the AI let go of the wheel, and they didn't just let go of the wheel, they climbed into the back seat, put on a sleeping mask, and trusted a chatbot to drive them through a gentrified neighborhood at 60 miles an hour. The study warns of long-term over-reliance on the tool and diminished skill for independent problem solving.
This is how a runner man reached over 1
Oh my God.
people without using social media.
In my opinion, going to be.
A larger study of 666 participants found a strong negative correlation between frequent AI use and critical thinking scores. In plain English, a negative correlation just means a seesaw effect. As one thing goes up, the other one goes down. So the more frequently somebody used AI, the lower their critical thinking scores dropped. The mediating factor was cognitive offloading, which is basically the tendency to let digital tools do the thinking for you. The correlation between cognitive offloading and critical thinking decline was even stronger, and a 2026 preprint by Shen and Tamkin tested software developers learning a new coding library. Developers who fully delegated to AI produced working code, but performed 17% worse on conceptual quizzes. They had the output without necessarily the understanding. And these were adults with existing programming expertise. They had a foundation to fall back on, and they still
One of America's most influential and weirdest billionaires has packed up, fled the country, and moved to, of all places, Argentina. Peter Thiel, co-founder of PayPal and Palantir, one of Facebook's earliest backers and Republican megadonor who has publicly warned about the coming of the Antichrist, has bought a $12 million mansion in Buenos Aires and enrolled his children into local schools. But while Thiel has moved himself and his family to Argentina, his fortune is doing the exact opposite. In a single quarter, his company booked $687 million in revenue from the United States government alone. Meanwhile, his venture firm just wrote the largest single check in its history for a defense contractor that landed a $20 billion US Army deal. So, instead of fleeing the American system, Thiel now owns a larger piece of it than ever before. With that in mind, today we break down the tax deadline he was racing against, the capital that never left American soil, and why he chose Javier Milei's Argentina out of every other country on Earth. My name is Guy, and this is the Finance Bureau. So, the 58-year-old Peter Thiel has purchased a historic 17,200 square foot mansion in Barrio Parque, one of the most exclusive enclaves in Buenos Aires. The property was designed by the renowned Argentine architect Alejandro
Okay, I don't care about the architecture.
Danzeisen and their children, who were reportedly enrolled in a local school. And then there were at least 4 documented meetings with Argentina's President Javier Milei across 2 years, including multiple encounters in Buenos Aires in April 2026. He's also met with Milei's deregulation minister and his economy minister. So naturally, this has triggered speculation that Argentina was about to hand Thiel's citizenship under a brand new investment framework. However, a spokesperson for President Milei explicitly denied that any formal citizenship offer was ever made. What we do know, though, is that Argentina passed Decree 524 in 2025, a citizenship by investment scheme waiving the usual residency requirement for investors, with a threshold expected around $500,000. And the government's tone has been unmistakable. Argentina's cabinet chief openly declared that all the billionaires of the world fleeing high-tax, over-regulated countries are, quote, welcome in the Argentine Republic, the new land of freedom. So, the picture being painted with Peter Thiel is of a billionaire bolting for a libertarian refuge. However, a look at the calendar reveals that this was in fact a carefully planned move. You see, Thiel left California in 2025, timing his exit against one very specific deadline. This was a ballot initiative in California, the so-called Billionaire Tax Act, proposing a one-time 5% tax on any net worth above $1 billion. And the entire thing hinged on a single date, a residency snapshot taken on the 1st of January 2026. Put simply, if you were a California resident on that morning and had a net worth of $1 billion or more, you were liable. If you'd already established your domicile somewhere else, however, you had a powerful argument that you were not. For Thiel, reports suggest his exposure to that one tax was somewhere in the region of $1.4 billion. But he wasn't the only one paying attention. At least 6 prominent California tech billionaires reportedly relocated themselves and/or their business entities out of the state before that deadline hit. Together, those individuals represented a significant share of the initiative's potential tax base. The Legislative Analyst's Office estimates the full measure could raise roughly $100 billion from California's roughly 200 billionaires, which naturally means at least some of those billionaires are going to relocate to try and avoid it. And here's why, for Peter Thiel at any rate, Argentina is such an attractive prospect. You see, as a non-resident, Argentina's wealth tax would generally only apply to his local assets, like that mansion. His global fortune, the Palantir stake, the venture portfolios, all of it stays completely outside the Argentine tax net. This is the critical distinction between migration residency and tax residency. He can use the mansion as what advisors call a bolt hole, spending most of his time elsewhere, and never expose the bulk of his wealth to the Argentine taxman. But intriguingly, Argentina is just the latest entry on a rather long list, because Thiel has been collecting exits for years. He holds American citizenship by birth and German citizenship, having been born in Frankfurt. He was granted New Zealand citizenship back in 2011, where he bought a 477-acre sheep station, despite having spent barely any time in the country, which caused considerable
Yeah, what's up?
public controversy.
Oh my god, dude, my vape is so burnt.
Maltese citizenship around
Jesus.
2022. So,
What is up, Dion?
New Zealand in 2011, Malta in 2022, Argentina in 2025. This is a man methodically building a deliberate strategy. And by the way, if you want to get a better overview,
I'm good on the banners. If you want to send me your friends in Discord, you're more than welcome to. Maybe someday I'll contact you if I, you know. Yeah, maybe someday I'll like hit you up if I need, you know, new logos and things, but for the moment I'm good. Thank you.
All right then. Now let's dig a little deeper into the fact that
Shit, I think I need to replace the coil in my vape.
Capital is doing nothing of the sort. We'll start with Palantir, which in the first quarter of 2026 booked $687 million in US government revenue alone. To put that into perspective, that single quarter of government revenue is worth roughly 57 times the price of his entire Buenos Aires mansion every 90 days. And the growth is almost entirely American. Palantir's total US revenue grew 104% year over year in that quarter. Its international revenue, around 38%. While Thiel moves globally, his money is concentrating intensely inside the United States. And that embeddedness runs deeper than just revenue. In March 2026, the Pentagon designated Palantir's Maven Smart system as an official program of record. In plain English, that locks Palantir into the Defense Department's multi-year budget process, insulating it from annual political squabbles and guaranteeing revenue until at least 2029. A NATO commander even admitted that Europe currently has no viable alternative to Palantir's battlefield AI. And then
Bye. Thanks for tuning in.
Backed by Thiel's Founders Fund. In June 2025, Founders Fund committed $1 billion to Anduril in a single round, the largest individual check in the firm's entire history. 8 months later, in March 2026, the US Army awarded Anduril a 10-year contract worth up to $20 billion. Then, in May 2026, Anduril closed a $5 billion Series H round led by Thrive Capital and Andreessen Horowitz that valued the company at $61 billion, more than doubling its valuation from the June 2025 round. Meanwhile, Anduril is building Arsenal One, a 5 million square foot weapons manufacturing facility, not in Argentina, not in New Zealand, but in central Ohio, Pickaway County, just south of Columbus. Thiel's network is building America's next weapons factory right in the American Midwest. By most assessments, the overwhelming bulk of Thiel's fortune, his Palantir equity, Founders Fund stakes, and US venture positions remain anchored entirely within the American financial system. So, paradoxically, while Thiel may be looking to live outside the US for whatever reason, he's more financially indispensable to the US security state than he has ever been. He remains deeply invested in America, choosing to hedge his residence rather than his income. But why Argentina specifically? Well, the answer traces back to an idea Thiel has been funding for nearly 2 decades. You see, he's long championed a concept he calls exit over voice.
Don't shit where you eat. That is the mentality that he has right now, is don't shit where you eat. Like, that's literally it. He doesn't want to stick around in a country that he's ruining.
Freedom and democracy were compatible, and argued the future of freedom lay in new spaces beyond the reach of the state. And he put real...
Oops, what did I just click on?
We are the storm, and our enemies cannot comprehend our strength, our determination, our resolve, our passion.
September 21st, 2025. White House advisor Stephen Miller spoke at a memorial for the late conservative activist Charlie Kirk.
You have no idea the dragon you have awakened. You have no idea how determined we will be to save this civilization, to save the West, to save this republic.
At the time of this speech, Miller was overseeing the deployment of National Guard troops and militarized immigration enforcement units into democratically run cities across the U.S.
It is so extreme that it unmasks, in a way, the administration. It's not about the worst of the worst. It is about the civilization, the protectors of that civilization, versus everyone else.
And just 2 days before, he was involved in directing a strike on a small boat in the Caribbean Sea.
These organizations can only be defeated with military power.
The third of more than 60 strikes that have resulted in over 200 deaths to date.
He's an absolute ideologue.
I would describe it as fascism.
In this episode of Fault Lines, we traveled across the country, examining the impact of Stephen Miller's agenda and tracing the rise of a former press secretary
I love this guy. I love this guy.
to one of the most powerful unelected figures in modern American history.
Who's enjoying 100 golden days of America?
Stephen Miller's probably the most powerful person in our government right now. That's frightening.
He is something special. And he's been with us right from day one. Right from day one, Stephen's been there, right? He's been great.
Stephen Miller's got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho.
Americans have come out across the country today to protest Trump and what they're calling No King's Day. And a lot of those protests are happening in city centers or capitals across the country. But here, they've chosen to march to the military base where Stephen Miller lives.
We know that Trump is falling asleep at meetings and barely there. There's somebody who is actually calling all the shots here, and his name is Stephen Miller.
Stephen Miller is really the architect of everything that's happened in this country to shut down legal immigration and vilify immigrants and drive them out of the country.
Just months earlier, Miller oversaw the deployment of more than 2,000 National Guard troops to Washington, D.C.
We are not going to let the communists destroy a great American city, let alone the nation's capital. So we're going to ignore these stupid white hippies that all need to go home and take a nap because they're all over 90 years old. And we're going to get back to the business of protecting the American people and the citizens of Washington, D.C.
Thank you, Stephen. A few questions.
We spent a long time in high school and beyond dismissing Stephen Miller. And now it would be helpful for all of us to understand just where that came from and how to combat it, because it's powerful.
To learn more about Stephen Miller's meteoric rise, we spoke to people who grew up with him in Santa Monica, California.
Yes, this is our Lincoln Middle School yearbook for 8th grade. You can see it's a super diverse group of kids.
Janess Hartley was a classmate and a friend of Miller's from middle school through graduation.
We were in AP government, U.S. government together. He was extremely pro-war, obsessed with the weapons of mass destruction, and that Saddam Hussein was a war criminal. That was his obsession.
A video of him expressing this surfaced early in Trump's first term.
Well, but as for Saddam Hussein and his henchmen, I think the ideal solution would be to cut off their fingers. I don't think it's necessary to kill them entirely. We're not a barbaric people. We respect life. Therefore, torture is the way to go.
Keisha Ram followed them 1 year behind.
Stephen really wanted to be heard. He wanted people to know his opinion and to care about his opinion.
Santa Monica is one of the wealthiest cities in the United States and a progressive stronghold in California.
I think Stephen hated Santa Monica. I think that is so much of what's wrapped up in Stephen's hatred of liberalism.
The left-wing politics and changing demographics of the city were reflected in their high school.
Even though he grew up with Hispanic friends in a school with a lot of Hispanic population, something about it was very bothersome to him.
He could still really shame people back into the shadows by talking about their parents' working class jobs
There's the famous one from high school that we filmed when he was running for a student body office.
Am I the only one who is sick and tired of being told to pick up my trash? We have plenty of janitors.
We had a message board, and he was always talking about people's needs to learn how to speak English, and he felt that Mexican immigrants didn't want to learn that, and that was somehow an affront to Americans that they refused to do so.
If you want to stop illegal immigration, you must therefore be racist, and that's bull. 790 KBC Talk Radio. The time is 3:55. The number is 1-800-222-KBC, and this is Larry Elder.
When he was still in high school, Miller began calling into the conservative radio program, The Larry Elder Show.
His shtick was to constantly rat out his own school.
They won't allow us to do the Pledge of Allegiance every day. They aren't respecting the American flag.
And all the things that he had to endure at our high school.
Because Stephen Miller was a minority voice in his diverse, largely progressive public high school, he could inhabit this persona of being a persecuted minority, and that ideology really spoke to him, this ideology of white male grievance.
He would appear on Elder's show 69 times while still in high school. That caught the attention of far-right activist David Horowitz.
We have a serious problem in the world in fanatical Islamic terrorists.
David Horowitz told me he was worried that Stephen Miller wasn't going to get a job, that he wasn't going to get into college, and he really took it upon himself to do everything that he could to protect Stephen Miller and to give him opportunities.
And it is my honor to welcome to the podium David Horowitz.
He was sort of a foot soldier for Horowitz's whole project of creating like a particular strain of right-wing insurgency on the campus.
I don't think that he would have become the Stephen Miller that we all know if he hadn't then met Larry Elder and David Horowitz. That was really what kind of sealed the deal in terms of him becoming someone really radical in his ideology.
Miller began working in politics at a time when some members of the Republican Party were joining Democrats in pursuing a pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants.
Many of them make valuable contributions to our society and will provide even more if they're brought out of the shadows and in compliance with our laws.
One of the most important Republican senators in blocking Obama's attempt at a comprehensive immigration reform package was Jeff Sessions of Alabama.
When these 11 million are legalized, they'll then be able to take virtually any job in the marketplace. Many now.
One of Jeff Sessions' main aides was Stephen Miller. That's really when he became a player. You could argue that set the stage for a strongly anti-immigrant candidate like Donald Trump to run for president and win.
Sessions would go on to be the first senator to endorse Trump for president in 2016, and Miller joined as a speechwriter, making his hardline immigration stance the driving force of the campaign.
Starting in January of 2017, illegal immigration will be a thing of the past.
There was a winning formula.
Trump would never have come on the scene and captured my hardcore MAGA radio audience if he didn't harp on immigration. So it's his signature issue. Stephen Miller is the brains behind his signature issue, every aspect of it.
During Trump's first term, some of Miller's most hardline immigration policies, like family separation, faced resistance from the courts, Democrats, and even officials inside the administration. But the experience was valuable.
He and Trump and everyone on the right had 4 years to kind of think about what didn't work last time in terms of advancing their agenda and where the real levers of power are in Washington, and to prepare for that so that they could really come out swinging this time, and they did.
You have a right to want a country that is of, by, and for Americans and only Americans.
And he's making it so they don't make the same mistakes that they made in the first administration. They're just not slowed down by fear of Congress or ugly politics or the administrative state.
Please welcome to the stage Senior Advisor to President Donald J. Trump, Stephen Miller.
Miller returned in the second administration as Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy and Homeland Security Advisor.
It's going to mean an executive order ending the border invasion, sending the illegals home, and taking America back.
Having grown up with him, it makes you realize that it isn't the smartest person you went to high school with who's running the country. It's the most shameless person.
I mean, he was the press flack, and he suddenly became somebody who was designing immigration policy in the United States.
Within days of taking office, Trump signed a series of executive orders shaped by Miller that restricted immigration, expanded deportations, and declared a crisis at the southern border.
This is a proclamation guaranteeing the state's protection against invasion based on the current crisis at the southern border.
The Trump administration has essentially shut down the southern border and shut down access to asylum for millions of people.
In 30 days, the president sealed the border shut, declared the cartels to be terrorist organizations, has increased ICE deportations to levels not seen in decades, and we are shortly on the verge of achieving a pace and speed of deportations this country has never before seen. Thank you.
To see the impact of these policies for ourselves, we traveled to the southern border in California. The administration has expanded construction of the border wall here, and A groups say fear of detention and deportation is keeping many migrants away, leaving some stranded in dangerous border cities in Mexico.
They say that illegal border crossings here are at an all-time low, which the Trump administration claims is evidence that Stephen Miller's immigration agenda is working.
He believes that the country is in a state of emergency. It is a consuming obsession. He believes that the presence of undocumented immigrants in this country, and really of anyone who doesn't conform to his image of Americans, is an urgent, immediate threat on a par with 9/11 or Pearl Harbor.
I think Stephen Miller and others in the administration truly believe that they need to save white civilization from these invaders.
These people chose to invade us. So there's a lot of concern from the corporate media about the invaders, but they chose to invade us.
Miller is able to influence the pace and focus of deportations through his role as advisor to the Department of Homeland Security.
There have been problems with the Department of Homeland Security for its entire history, but they have regarded themselves as rule-bound.
Trump and Miller are not the first to direct large-scale deportation efforts.
In fact, I was secretary when Obama was given the nickname Deporter-in-Chief, which I don't think he was very happy about.
Under the Obama administration, Homeland Security Secretary Janet Napolitano oversaw record levels of deportations.
So we set clear priorities. Those who were in the country illegally, who had committed other crimes, those who were known gang members or security threats, and those who we caught within 120 miles of the border, we would actually put them into deportation before they got into and settled in the United States.
They've eliminated those priorities, which is why you see these bottlenecks and why you end up seeing the system not working the way that they want it to, because when you go after everybody, you end up stuck.
In the spring of 2025, reports circulated that Miller was frustrated with the pace of deportations. Using his influence within DHS, he pushed to expand immigration raids far beyond the southern border.
And so on a day-to-day basis, you're going to see exponentially larger numbers of illegal aliens being arrested and removed from the interior. Yes.
It was an unprecedented move, enabled by a massive infusion of cash into an agency with little oversight, now under the direction of Miller.
And that money, coupled with the legal authority that they've had.
Jolt of optimism at the U.S.-Iran peace talks in Switzerland, despite a weekend of threats and setbacks. Iran's foreign minister saying overnight, tireless Pakistani and Qatari mediation has delivered major progress on issues including the unfreezing of Iranian assets and ending Israel's attacks on Iranian-based Hezbollah fighters in Lebanon. Renewed Israeli attacks prompted Iran to once again threaten to close the Strait of Hormuz. President Trump then lashing out yesterday, warning Iran, you close it and you won't have a country. You won't even make it back to your expletive country, adding that he would, quote, blow the expletive out of them should the strait be closed. That led to this moment, Iran's delegation appearing to walk out of the Swiss venue where the talks are being held. But overnight came word that the talks continued.
What the president has asked us to do is turn over a new leaf. to transform our relationship with the people of Iran.
The deal seems to hinge partially on Israel and Hezbollah calling off military operations in Lebanon, something they've been unwilling to do despite a ceasefire.
We established a security zone in Lebanon, and we shall keep it as long as is necessary to protect our people.
As for the bigger picture, Iran state media reports the peace talks have not yet turned to Iran's nuclear program. Meanwhile, despite all the uncertainty surrounding the talks, gas prices here at home are dropping, down nearly 14 cents per gallon in the last week. And diesel prices have now fallen below $5 for the first time since March. Analysts predict that downward trend will continue. In a sign of just how difficult these peace talks may be, Iran's president has said his country will never back down from its right to enrich uranium.
$2? The price tag said $1.
Now it's 3, now it's 4.
That's not right. With Mumu.
Keir Starmer is the shortest-serving Labour Prime Minister since Ramsay MacDonald in 1924, so in a century, clocking in at just 1 year and 352 days. That's about a year shorter than Gordon Brown. He was the next shortest, who was seen off by a global financial crisis. Of course, unlike Brown, Starmer doesn't really have any external excuses to point to for his downfall. There was a war, but it didn't really sort of damage his premiership. So it seems like it was pretty much entirely self-made. So where exactly did it all go wrong? Well, being exceptionally and publicly duplicitous didn't help, and the warning signs go all the way back to the way he won the election to become leader of the opposition.
You made 10 policy pledges for this campaign. Let's see how watertight they are. Can you guarantee that under your leadership, the 2019 Labour commitments to nationalise water, energy, rail, the Royal Mail, they'll all be in Labour's next election manifesto?
I've made that commitment.
Those 4 industries will be in the Labour manifesto for nationalisation come 2024.
They will.
That was, of course, Keir Starmer speaking to Andrew Neil during his 2020 campaign to replace a recently resigned Jeremy Corbyn as Labour leader. Within months, all but renationalising railways was, of course, abandoned. In that interview, Starmer also refused to criticise his former boss. But that didn't last long. Just a few months later, Starmer suspended Jeremy Corbyn from the Labour Party after he claimed his political opponents had dramatically overstated the scale of anti-Semitism in the party. And in 2023, Starmer's Labour banned Corbyn from running as a Labour candidate in his Islington North constituency. Corbyn, of course, went on to win it anyway. And that was despite Starmer going full Judas in between.
I'm not going to rank Jeremy Corbyn. He's a colleague, he's a friend, and he's led us through some really difficult times in the Labour Party.
Is he a friend? Was he a friend?
No, I mean, as I say, I haven't spoken to him for 2.5 years.
Was never a friend.
No, not in the sense that we were, went to visit each other or anything like that. I worked with him as a colleague, but as I say, I haven't spoken to Jeremy now for 2.5 years.
But while that duplicity against the left pissed off hundreds of thousands of people on the Labour left, and the left more generally, he basically got a pass from the mainstream press on that issue. And he went on to position himself as an honest man when he entered number 10.
Now, this wound, this lack of trust, can only be healed by actions, not words. I know that.
God, he has really aged in the last 2 years. That's kind of the only thing that really makes me feel sympathy for him, which is clearly, the job is difficult. He presumably hasn't got that much sleep. Anyway, back to the narrative. The project of rebuilding public trust in politics never got off the ground, with 2 pivotal policies making the Starmer government look, frankly, a bit cruel.
I don't want to cut the winter fuel allowance. I don't think anybody government wants to do that, but we've got to fix the foundations of our economy. And that's what this is all about, making sure that we fix the foundations.
So your own impact assessment for these reforms says that 250,000 people could fall into relative poverty because of these changes, including 50,000 children. How comfortable do you feel about a Labour government pushing that many people into poverty as a result of your cuts?
Well, it all depends on how people respond to changes.
So that was, of course, the winter fuel payment cut, and then the welfare reforms, which are trying to get rid of £5 billion from the welfare bill, with no real justification as to why it was fair or just saying, well, we need to save a bit of money, so we'll do it this way. Both of those were, of course, after lots of pressure, ultimately reversed, meaning Starmer lost both public trust as well as his authority as a leader, and also they didn't save any money. Now, that had been entrusted, so the authority had been entrusted with this man, Morgan McSweeney. He became Starmer's chief advisor when he was Prime Minister. And before that, though, McSweeney had been head of Labour Together, a group whose aim was to get rid of the left within Labour and install Keir Starmer as party leader, even if it meant failing to declare £750,000 in private donations. It would later emerge that Labour Together's next leader, former Starmer Cabinet Minister Josh Simons, had paid a US firm to spy on journalists, including friend of the show Paul Holden, before reporting them to GCHQ as falsely having Kremlin links. Now, Simons resigned from the cabinet and later gave up his Makerfield seat to allow Andy Burnham to run. It's also widely understood that Simons may become Burnham's chief of staff when he becomes Prime Minister. We'll put that to one side for a moment. Slightly worrying. Anyway, back to Starmer. It was his apparent dependence on McSweeney that led to one of his greatest errors in office. This was Keir Starmer speaking in Washington, D.C. in February 2025.
Abraham Lincoln united a nation that was deeply divided. He gave his life as a martyr for the cause of peace. Every hero's journey begins with a blank page, yet their achievements have echoed through time. The stories of these individuals remind us that greatness often starts
Fuck is this?
to turn the first page.
Jesus.
As the hero.
I've only just arrived, but already I can feel there's a real buzz around Washington right now. You can sense that there's a new leader in town, that he's a true one-off, a pioneer in business and in politics. Many people love him. Others love to hate him. But to us, he's just Peter.
He wouldn't be laughing for long. That was Keir Starmer celebrating the appointment of Peter Mandelson, the self-proclaimed best pal of paedophile sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein, as, of course, UK ambassador to the United States. That job, as you know, didn't last too long. In September last year, Mandelson was sacked over the undisclosed extent of his relationship with Epstein, which included a contribution to the notorious birthday book put together by his sex trafficking co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell in 2006. Further revelations snowballed. In February, documents from the Epstein file suggested Mandelson had leaked sensitive government information to Epstein while Mandelson was a minister in Gordon Brown's cabinet, leading to a police investigation being launched. That led to Mandelson's arrest on suspicion of misconduct in public office later that month. Of course, Mandelson denies all the allegations. Also, it led to the resignation of McSweeney, Starmer's right-hand man. It kept getting worse, though, with yet further scandal when it emerged that Mandelson had failed his security vetting before his appointment, though had somehow been overruled. It's a mystery we never quite got to the bottom of, though it did result in this rare admission from Keir Starmer.
Let me start where I must start, which is to accept, as I do, that I made a mistake in appointing Peter Mandelson. And let me follow that up swiftly, as I've done before, but I need to do it again, with an apology to the victims of Epstein for appointing Peter Mandelson. It was my mistake, and I take responsibility in relation to it.
Starmer may have taken responsibility. He didn't resign. Of course, he made someone else fall on the sword. Of course, ministry has now taken care of that, but despite the grossness of the Mandelson appointment, the betrayal of Labour values, and the attempt to completely purge the left from Labour's ranks, none of that will likely be what Starmer is remembered for. Instead, it'll be the callous indifference he showed and the diplomatic cover he provided to what may be the greatest crime of our lifetimes, committed by an ally that Starmer has consistently refused to challenge.
I'm very clear. Israel does have that right to defend herself, and Hamas bears responsibility.
A siege is appropriate? Cutting off power, cutting off water?
Well, I think that Israel does have that right. There's a lot of different work that goes on. I'm also aware that some or quite a bit of what goes on here can't necessarily be talked about all the time. It isn't, although we're really proud of what you're doing, we can't necessarily tell the world what you're doing here. And therefore it makes it really important to say thank you, to acknowledge that.
Now, in a written statement from the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, to the House, she has made it clear that she has decided to prescribe Palestine action under Section 3 of the Terrorism Act 2000.
Is the UK still a friend of Israel?
Banseka, a lot to choose from there. Which of those various betrayals do you think, or failures, flaws, outrages, sort of has the most to do with Starmer's downfall?
You know, there was a lot of conversation, of course, about two-child benefit cap, the winter fuel allowance. These are things which I think were egregious mistakes and were very bad things to start out your premiership on, just to start out completely negative. But I have to say, I don't think I heard Gaza being mentioned once, actually, in the coverage. And whilst I get that it's characterised somewhat as a left-wing thing, and statistically people on the left will care about it more, I do think it's something which has been seriously instrumental to his downfall and his inability to be able to hold his voter base together. We know statistically that that's the number one reason why they've lost their base of voters, mostly to the Greens, it looks like, right? It's because of the failures on Gaza.
In this legendary space MMO, betrayals of its players.
The CIA will so ruin a person whose politics they don't like that he can never work again. I did 23 months in a federal prison.
We went to war in Iran because of Israel?
Absolutely, yes. The Iranians were no threat to the United States. I believed Jeffrey Epstein was a Mossad access agent. The Shin Bet officer, he had his glasses down like this. He says to me, "You are Jewish?" And I said, "I am not recruitable."
I assume that there are things that you know that you still can't say.
Absolutely.
How bad are they?
Yeah, it's pretty ugly.
One advisor said that once Trump receives a call from an international number he doesn't recognize, he answers it anyway. He just sees the number and thinks, this might be a foreign leader I want to talk to.
It's got to be a dozen different countries listening to these calls. Absolutely, yes. I know what we used to do at the CIA.
Do you agree that it is at least concerning for some people, that it should be concerning for some people, as a former spy, that a former CIA agent turned whistleblower then ends up working for the Russian government? My guest today has a life story straight out of a Hollywood movie. A former CIA agent who turned whistleblower on CIA torture and then experienced the wrath of one of the most feared intelligence agencies in the world. John Kiriakou went from the shadows of counterterrorism work in Pakistan and prison in the United States to the bright lights and filters of social media today, garnering millions of views from online followers who want to hear more of his stories and his takes. He is now host of the Deep Focus podcast on YouTube, author of several books, with one new one out this summer, and he joins me now here in the studio in Washington, D.C. John, good to see you again.
Good to see you.
A lot to talk about, but let's just go back to the beginning for those of our viewers who don't know about you and your story. A fascinating story. You were at the CIA, you joined and became a Middle East analyst, all the way up to being named Chief of Counter-Terror Operations in Pakistan at the height of the War on Terror. Why did you join the CIA, and why did you end up leaving?
Well, I come from an immigrant family. All four of my grandparents came from Greece, and they were so grateful for the opportunities that the country gave them that they instilled in us this notion that we needed to give something back to the country. So I only considered public service. I was thinking maybe the State Department, maybe something on Capitol Hill. I wanted to see the world and travel. And then my graduate school advisor turned out to be a CIA officer undercover.
And that happens a lot, right?
Oh, yeah.
At universities across, not just elite universities across the board.
Across the board. It's not as
Now everyone at
clandestine.
home is wondering which university you should go to.
Oh, it was George Washington University. Since the passage, DC-based. Since passage of the Equal Employment Opportunity Act in 1993, that's illegal to do it clandestinely like that. Now they have professors who are the scholar in residence, and they just do it out in the open.
Do they have little stalls now at careers fairs?
They do,
Join the
actually.
CIA?
They do.
Why did you leave the CIA in 2004?
Well, I wish I could say that I left on principle. That was a part of it. The CIA had changed, but I was newly divorced. I had 2 little boys at home, and especially boys need their father, and I decided rather than to go back to Iraq or Afghanistan or Pakistan, I was going to stay with my sons. And
So you leave the CIA in 2004, 22 years ago, and then you do an interview with ABC where you confirm, this is during the Bush administration still, right? That official US government policy permits interrogators to use enhanced techniques, which is a polite way of saying torture techniques, to get information out of prisoners at black sites, etc. What made you go public after all those years of having left the CIA and taking this big step? And explain to our viewers what happened to you after that.
Sure. I complained vociferously inside the CIA about the torture program. I'm sorry to say that of 14 people approached and asked if they wanted to be trained in the use of these torture techniques, I was the only one of the 14 who said no. And I thought this was so clearly illegal, immoral, unethical. Somebody was going to come out and say something, and nobody said anything. And then in December of 2007, Brian Ross approached me from ABC News and said that he had a source who said that I had tortured Abu Zubaydah, Zain al-Abidin Mohammed Hussein. I said, absolutely untrue. I was the only person who was ever kind to Abu Zubaydah. And he said, well, you're welcome to come on the show and defend yourself. I didn't know that was a reporter's trick because I'd never spoken with a reporter before. And so I said...
This is 2007.
2007. I said, I'll think about it. In the meantime, while I'm thinking about it, President Bush gives a press conference in which he looks directly in the camera and says, we do not torture. And I said to my wife, who was a senior CIA officer, I said, he is a bald-faced liar. He's looking the American people in the eye and just lying to them. And then a couple of days later, as he's walking to the Marine One helicopter, he shouts in response to a reporter's question that if there is torture, it's because of a rogue CIA officer.
Oh, wow.
And I said to my wife, Brian Ross's source is at the White House, and they're going to pin this on me. I'm going to go public. And I decided that I would just tell the truth and let the cards fall. Within 24 hours of that interview, the CIA filed what's called a crimes report against me, telling the FBI that they believed I had committed espionage by revealing a classified program. The FBI investigated me for a year, from December of 2007 to December of 2008, and determined I had not committed a crime. Just 4 weeks later, Barack Obama becomes president. He names my old nemesis, John Brennan, the Deputy National Security Advisor for Counterterrorism. And Brennan asks the Justice Department to secretly reopen the case against me. They did that. For the next 3 years, my phones were tapped, my emails were intercepted, teams of FBI agents followed me everywhere. And then finally in January of 2012, more than 4 years after I went public, they arrested me and charged me with 5 felonies, including 3 counts of espionage.
Liking this video? Then don't just watch, hit like, share and subscribe. And tap the bell so you never miss a video or live show. But if you want early access to exclusive...
Imagine being able to build anything just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
Disclosing classified information to journalists, including the name of a covert CIA officer. That's something you've never accepted. You deny that.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, I'll explain. There were 2 names that they accused me of having turned over. One had never, ever been undercover, and in fact had a LinkedIn page where it said Central Intelligence Agency.
Kind of gives it away.
Yeah, and then the classified programs I was supposed to have outed were the torture programs.
How did it feel knowing that you went to prison, essentially, for whistleblowing on the CIA's torture policy? I mean, they didn't charge you with that, but that's what started the whole thing.
Right.
But the torturers themselves and their bosses who ordered them to torture, they never saw a day inside prison.
No, not a day. You know, I don't mean to smile because it's not funny, but this has been, of course, something that's been on my mind for a decade and a half now. And our system is corrupt. Our government is corrupt. Life just isn't fair. And so I was determined to make the best of it. And I feel like I have.
You are critical of torture. You
Very
say
much
you were
so.
critical at the time.
Yes.
You refused to do it. Here's what's confusing. Since then, you've said multiple times that torture doesn't work. You said it to Joe Rogan just last year in your interview with him. He said it's not effective, which is the view of the Senate Torture Report and most experts. But in the ABC interview in 2007, you said it did work on Abu Zubaydah. Why did you say that then?
Yes, that's a great question. The reason I said it is because all of the reporting cables coming back from the secret site were lies.
I see.
What was happening was the CIA and the FBI were still so at odds that their computer systems were not compatible. So the FBI agent interrogating Abu Zubaydah, Ali Soufan, great hero of this entire episode, great hero. He did what the FBI is very good at, and he interrogated Abu Zubaydah by treating him with respect. Abu Zubaydah opened up, and Ali was reporting back to the FBI. This is what he said every day. And he was giving us actionable intelligence. Well, the CIA insisted on taking over for reasons that have never been made clear.
And tried to attribute Abu Zubaydah opening up to torture.
Exactly.
To cover their
So what they did, because the computer systems were incompatible, they took Ali's reporting, retyped it in CIA channels and said, we waterboarded him once, here's what he said.
So you were wrong in 07 when you said that. You were basically
I was wrong.
incomplete,
Yeah,
incorrect.
but we didn't know that was wrong until April of 2009.
But as of today, you stand by the consensus position that torture doesn't work.
It
didn't
does not work. Besides being illegal.
immoral, illegal, yeah, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
All right, let's broaden this conversation out. You today, 2026, you've gone from being a man who was in the shadows, a man who was taken on George W. Bush, going to prison for it. You've become an online personality, Johnny. In fact, I interviewed you a few years ago, and even then you weren't as big as you are now. Complex Magazine describes you as a TikTok sensation with a skill for narrative mastery. When was the moment you realized, oh, I'm a bit of an online celebrity?
Well, it was about 11 weeks ago.
Okay.
I happened to be in Dubai during a business trip, and my niece called me, and she said, Uncle John, you're exploding on TikTok. And I said, why? And she said, I don't know, but you're everywhere. And I said, okay. I thought some one-day thing, something happened, something in the algorithm. And I went to bed. The next day, CAA calls me, the Creative Artists Agency.
They want to rep you.
And they said, tell us you're not represented. I said, no, I'm not represented. You are now. Well, it turned out.
By the way, is it only me who finds it amusing that you went from the CIA to CAA? So had to be said.
I've had to spell it out
very
carefully. So what it was I had given an interview to Stephen Bartlett of
Diary of the CEO. Big show.
Big show a month earlier. And as it turned out, a 20-year-old sophomore from the University of Texas saw that podcast, chopped it up into shorts, gave me an Alvin and the Chipmunks voice, put lasers shooting from my eyes, and made me famous.
There you go. I wonder if George W. Bush has seen the clip. Just on, there are a lot of people though who are craving information about what is going on right now in the world, in the Middle East, in government, from Iran to Epstein to Gaza. What do you think the average John Kiriakou subscriber who listens to your podcast, who finds you online, what are they looking for? Do you think?
The truth. My management.
Everyone's looking for the truth. What are they looking from you?
They are confused. I get this a lot.
Yeah.
They're confused by the competing, I'll call it right-wing and left-wing media narratives, the two parties of the duopoly and their narratives, and they're looking for somebody just to speak in plain English and tell them the truth. Funny thing, when I got out of prison, I had this website, and my webmaster asked me if I could guess at my demographic. I said, oh, yes. I said, women 40 to 60. She says, not even close. She said, it's men, and it's equally divided between ages 15 and 80. 80-20 men. Well, since this exploded, it's still 80-20 men, but almost all of them are between the ages of 15 and 30. They're looking for somebody just to tell them the truth.
And how much truth can you tell them, John? When you talk about your experience in the CIA, I'm sure people want to hear stories. What did you see? What did you hear?
A lot.
What are you restricted by? Obviously, you don't want to go back to prison.
No, I don't want to go back to prison. But over the years, because I've written so many books, I've written now 9 books, I've gotten all my stories cleared.
Okay.
Plus, the CIA is subject to something called mandatory declassification. Information has to be declassified when it gets to the 30-year or 35-year mark. Now, generally, you have to file a Freedom of Information Act request to force the declassification. But I'm happy to just tell the stories. And besides, my opinion is not classified so long as it's not based on specifically classified information.
But I assume that there are things that you know that you still can't say.
Absolutely.
How bad are they?
Yeah, it's pretty ugly.
You mentioned Stephen Bartlett's show. You said on Diary of a CEO in January, you said I'm the most anti-CIA, former CIA person that's out there. And you justified it by saying that the CIA is an organization that's just out of control. What do you mean by that? And when did it go out of control? Because many would argue it's always been out of control.
Oh, it was out of control from its first covert action program, which was to steal the Italian election of 1949, until the Church Committee hearings.
Yes.
Between 1975 and about 1982, there was real oversight, something that Americans could be proud of.
The Jimmy Carter presidency.
The Jimmy Carter presidency. Yeah. Frank Church was serious. Otis Pike was serious, the congressman from Long Island. They were serious about reforming the CIA and really overseeing its activities. But that all went out the window with Iran-Contra.
Iran-Contra, and then obviously the War on Terror, which takes the CIA into a whole different world.
See, and this is the big problem. The War on Terror is the most obvious example. The Senate Select Committee on Intelligence and the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence really are not oversight committees. They're cheerleading committees.
Yes.
And they don't do anything to rein in the CIA. They didn't do anything to rein in...
The opposite. They emboldened the CIA.
They emboldened the CIA.
After 9/11,
the assassination program, the secret prison program, the torture program, the rendition program.
It was put at the heart of the War on Terror.
It was.
Not the Pentagon. It was the CIA.
Very much. It was the CIA.
In 2019, John, former CIA Director Mike Pompeo, who went on to be Secretary of State, told a crowd at Texas A&M University, "What's the cadet motto at West Point? You will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do." I was the CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. I mean, obviously he was saying, I'm joking, but from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, that was a really stupid thing to say. I mean, it was true, of course, but it was a really stupid thing to say in public because it's exactly what people want to hear from a CIA director so that they could use it against the CIA. Not that they don't deserve it. They deserve it.
Do you agree with people who say the CIA is a rogue agency that needs to be shut down?
Yes, I'm on record as saying that I think the CIA should be shut down. And you know, we've got...
Not enough people say that, though.
No, not enough
I mean, Democrats are too scared to say abolish ICE. Yeah. I've never heard the slogan abolish CIA. Maybe we're coining it here today on May the Unfiltered. Abolish CIA. Maybe a Democratic presidential candidate in 2028 could run on that.
Most countries have one intelligence service. Some have 2. The United States has 18.
18, which are currently being managed by Tulsi Gabbard.
Tulsi Gabbard.
Do you regret anything you did during the CIA?
Oh, sure. I've told this story about a morning early on in my career.
Masters of Science in Finance program here at Babson is tailor-made to...
Turning to southern Lebanon, I can tell you that yesterday marked the first day since the resumption of hostilities on March 2nd in Lebanon that peacekeepers from our peacekeeping force in Lebanon did not detect any trajectories or observe any interceptions. UNIFIL says this lack of activities has continued through this morning. We welcome this reduction of hostilities, and we very much hope that this trend continues for the sake of people on the ground. This follows an intense escalation on Friday and Saturday after the latest reported ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. On Saturday, UNIFIL attributed multiple airstrikes and 451 firing incidents to the IDF and 20 trajectories to Hezbollah and 8 projectile interceptions. Over the past 3 days, UNIFIL peacekeepers have, however, continued to observe extensive IDF ground activities throughout the mission's area of responsibilities, including armored maneuvers as well as engineering and logistical activities. Peacekeepers also continue to observe violation of Lebanese airspace by IDF aircrafts. although this has been observed at reduced levels. Yesterday, UNIFIL peacekeepers encountered multiple restrictions of their freedom of movement across the area of operations. In Sector East, an IDF roadblock denied passage to a UNIFIL convoy despite prior deconfliction, and 2 UNIFIL patrols were turned back by the IDF in Sector West. Peacekeepers also encountered a roadblock by the Lebanese armed forces in Sector East, prompting our colleagues to divert to an alternate route. On the humanitarian front, UNIFIL, through its liaison branch in coordination with OCHA, facilitated 8 humanitarian missions in Sector West on June 20th. And on the broader humanitarian front, OCHA tells us that families displaced by months of hostilities are starting to return to southern areas despite widespread destruction, damaged infrastructure, and limited access to basic services. Uncertainty remains high. For many, some families are moving closer to the areas of origin and waiting for conditions to improve before making a final decision on what they should do next. While violence has decreased significantly in recent days, the human toll of the conflict continues to be felt.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. What's the latest you've heard from the Vice President? Are you happy with his negotiations?
Yeah.
And can you share a little bit about what Secretary Rubio will be doing in the Middle East this week?
I think that they're doing a fantastic job. Our secretary is fantastic. I think he's maybe going to go down as the best ever. And I thought J.D. Vance this morning was fantastic. I watched his news conference, and from Switzerland, he's a very smart guy. Did a great job. You know, when I look at the Democrats, I call them the Democrats. They're dumb. The Democrats. When I watched that, where one of them thought it was World War XI. She said World War XI. She read World War II. You know about that, right? This is one of their potential leaders, Ilhan Omar, who married her brother to get into the country, by the way, illegally. But when I watch AOC have no idea, on a simple question, what happened when she was over in Switzerland, which... Any questions, please? Or,
Treasury lifted sanctions on Iranian oil today, sir? Treasury lifted sanctions on Iranian oil today.
well, I'm going to have to find out exactly the status, but if the sanctions go out, money's going to be put into this country. All that money's coming back in the form of purchases of food, which they desperately need. They have 91 million people. They can't feed them. So the money that we lift is going to go to our farmers, largely to our farmers.
Can you ensure that the Iranians won't use profits from oil sales to rebuild their military?
Well, they're not supposed to be doing that, so we'll see. But they're supposed to use money to buy food for their people, because right now the people are very hungry, and they're buying it exclusively from us. Corn, soybeans, should be a lot of money. I hope it's a lot of money.
If the war with Iran could cause a worldwide depression, as you noted, Mr. President, are you willing to risk economic catastrophe and strike Iran
Well,
again?
not the way I'm doing it. It's not going to cause depression.
Yes, but if they don't abide by the
Well,
memorandum
nuclear
of
weapon
understanding.
supersedes depression. Depression's real bad. Nuclear weapon will cause depression much more quickly. The way we're doing it, we have the opposite of a depression. We're doing really well. The numbers are incredible. The oil is at a level that nobody's ever seen before. Oil prices are way down. I think they're very comparable to what they were. Chris, I don't know, pretty comparable to what they were before we started.
They've returned most of the way back down.
Yeah.
And, so if Iran does not abide by the MOU, are you still willing
What I
for
didn't
strikes?
say it would cause a depression. I said it could cause a depression, right? And I said that I don't want to be Herbert Hoover. That's a president I don't want to be, because he was in charge during the Great Depression. And certainly a lot of bad things could happen. That would be one of the things. I don't think it would, but if it did. But no, if Iran doesn't live up to their agreement, or if they're not behaving, I will do what I have to do.
Does that give them leverage over you, Mr. President?
Say it?
Does that give them leverage, the Iranians leverage over you?
Oh, you're so leverage. You know, their Navy is gone. Their Air Force is gone. Their leaders are all dead. Their whole country's a mess. Their economy is shot. The Times, the fake New York Times said, oh, it's about the same as it was 4 months ago. No, 4 months ago they had a Navy, 159 ships to be exact. It's gone. The whole Navy's gone. There are 250 airplanes, all gone. their anti-aircraft is gone. Their radar is gone. These guys love radar. Their radar is gone. Everything's gone. Their leaders are gone. Their whole country is gone. And the Times said, oh, they're about the same as they were 4 months ago. And the reason the news is doing so badly, or let's put it another way, the reason that I won in a landslide, even though I got 92% negative press, all fake press, is because nobody believes the press anymore. And they have to start believing. You know, when the Times and a couple of others, they're grasping for straws. When they say that Iran is about the same as it was 4 months. 4 months ago, they had a powerful Navy, they had a powerful Air Force. You know, most of their missiles are gone. Most of their launching pads are gone. Most of their manufacturing capacity for drones and missiles is gone. About 87% gone. And then I hear, oh, they're in such great shape. No, they're gone. And their first level of leaders, gone. Their second level of leaders, gone. Their third level of leaders, you have to hear the conversations. Who wants to be president? Well, I don't want it. Nobody wants to be president. And then we have to read that they're doing well. They're doing so badly. In the meantime, we're setting records. We have the strongest economy we've ever had. We have $18 to $19 trillion being poured into our country. We're building factories all over the place. We have more people working today than at any time in the history of our country at higher salaries. So when you ask a question like that, it's so stupid.
Mr. President,
Here's another beauty. What's this one?
Well,
here's a real beauty.
earlier
Go
today,
ahead.
the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said his forces are not leaving Lebanon. That is a sticking point.
Who did he tell that to you?
He said it publicly in Israel.
Well, we're going to take a look at it.
Well, what would you do to make sure that he doesn't?
Well, I'm not going to
sabotage
tell
the
you
deal?
what I'm going to do, but it gets solved. I'm a problem solver. I get problem solved real fast, including with Bibi. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. What's the latest you've heard from the Vice President? Are you happy with his negotiations?
Yeah.
And can you share a little bit about what Secretary Rubio will be doing in the Middle East this week?
I think that they're doing a fantastic job. Our secretary is fantastic. I think he's maybe going to go down as the best ever. And I thought J.D. Vance this morning was fantastic. I watched his news conference, and from Switzerland, he's a very smart guy. He did a great job. You know, when I look at the Democrats, I call them the Democrats. They're dumb. The Democrats. When I watched that, where one of them thought it was World War XI. She said World War XI. She read World War II. You know, much of its energy. You know where? Norway. You know where they get their oil? The North Sea. The UK has a much better portion of the North Sea. They don't want to do it for environmental purposes, okay? And I told him he's a very nice man. I mean, sort of a friend of mine. I mean, he was not good to us with NATO, Pete, right? He said, we can't use the island to land. That was the first. For a couple of weeks, he said, well, but ultimately I gave it to you now. That was a bad move. That hurt him badly. But I mean, I wish him well, but he's got two problems, energy and immigration and crime. But energy and immigration.
Mr. President,
And he's, you know, he's really hurt himself very, very badly. Please go.
Mr. President, can you tell us about your meeting with the defense contractors on Wednesday and what you plan to tell them?
The meeting coming up, because I've met with them before. We're building plants all over the country. They are not allowed to take any more stock buybacks. Do you do stock buybacks by any chance? Not too much, right? No, because he wants to invest in product. It's just an artificial way of raising a price if you're running a bad company. So they spend $51 billion.
That's so fucking rich. Oh my God.
Instead of spending them on plants. Now they're spending, they can't do that anymore.
I'm just thinking about the AI bubble.
Many plants throughout the country. They're dealing with General Motors. They're dealing
Elon
with
Musk and all that shit.
They're excited about building weapons now. They have some plants which are going to switch over. We're going to build weapons, including the Patriot, including the Tomahawk, and lots of other things.
The Patriot, the Tomahawk.
We're really in a big, strong economic push to do the weapons. And some of the car companies, if they have any excess capacity, they're making a deal to build missiles and the Patriot in particular. We have quite a few of them, but we want to make sure we have always a lot of them.
Mr. President of Colombia, the candidate that you endorse.
Thank you, Mr. President. Congratulations on the quantum physics EO to all of
Thank you.
Vice President Vance said that there are mechanisms in place to make sure that there's not escalations with the Strait of Hormuz and with Israel and Lebanon. Can you talk about what those mechanisms are, and are you in direct talks with the Supreme Leader?
Yeah, look, here's the thing. As long as they respect us, I don't want to use the word fear, because that's an inappropriate word, but as long as they respect us, we're not going to have any trouble. We have total control of the strait.
So the mechanism
You know, we have a Navy that had a blockade. I think the blockade was more impactful than dropping bombs, if you want to know the truth. It was like I said, they call it the steel wall. Nobody got through. Not one ship got through, able to go to Iran. They got through if we wanted them to go through. And we could set that up again in about 15 minutes. I would say, Pete, one phone call, how long would it take? Maybe half hour?
They're ready to go right now if you need to.
It'll be before we finish the meeting. No, we have, as long as they respect us, we're going to be fine. If they don't respect us, things wouldn't be good, but they have a lot of respect. Don't forget, we had presidents that should have done this for 47 years. Nobody did it. Obama gave them a road to a nuclear weapon. I gave them a wall against a nuclear. They can never, under this agreement, they'll never even think about building a nuclear
Mr.
weapon.
President, on Colombia, the candidate.
Oh, El Tigre.
El Tigre, yeah, Belardo de Espriella. We know that you had a phone.
I endorsed him.
What the hell happened to the exposure on this video?
Yeah, and we know that you had a
no different than this country.
Look at that. What the hell was that?
I did. I had a great call.
What can you tell us about that phone conversation, and what do you see, what do you anticipate?
You're from Colombia, I
Yes,
see.
sir, I'm from
So
Colombia.
he called.
Cartagena, great city.
He called me last night and he thanked me for the endorsement. He won. He won the election. He wasn't anticipated to win, but he won, and he won handily. It's just an honor. He was just a good man. I'd watch him a little bit speak, and he always speak. You know, when people like me, I like them. It's very simple. It's a very simple formula, and I like them. He said really nice things about me and the job we've done in the United States, and very, very powerful. And he won an election in Colombia that, I don't know, some people were surprised because he was a little bit further down the pack, but he won easily last night. He won by, he called me at 8:30 in the evening just to thank me very much. And I said, you ran a great campaign. He's El Tigre, right?
Yeah. And what do you anticipate for the relation with Colombia? Colombia is
Good,
such an
much
important-
better. It'll be better. He's going to be a great president.
Are the contractors who did the initial work for the reflecting pool, are they to blame for the current condition, or is it
No,
the vandals?
we had vandalism. No, vandals. It was all, you know, we have I think 290, 300-foot slit right through it, probably a box cutter or a knife of some kind. Or we had people lifting up the basic, some of the, it's not a lot of damage, but we'll probably have to let the water out and refix it. They went in there with a knife. I was just told by the people over at Parks, they have 5 people are arrested and 5 people are under investigation right now. And it's a sad thing. In addition to that, we put brand new, beautiful grass all around. They put these massive letters on the grass. You probably know about that, right? And they said 8647. They probably got that from the dirty cop, Comey. You know he's a dirty cop, don't you? Dirty cop. He's a crooked guy. They destroyed the grass. So that's a big thing. But we're going to get it back very soon.
National Guard and police have been all over the mall. How would these vandals have gotten so close to do something like that?
Do you have any proof of
I
this?
mean, we didn't have a lot of them then. Who would think that somebody would go into a pool and take a knife and start cutting it?
But do you have proof of that? That
Yeah,
we
have
you have
proof.
photos or videos?
Well, let's put it this way. When you have a 350, I think it's 350, not 250, a 350-foot slit from one end to the other, you think that's proof? You think that's
The
proof?
reporters have been down there today looking for that slit that you mentioned, and
Well,
there's no evidence of
all
it.
you'd have to do is see the Parks Department. They'll show it to you. See the secretary. But I saw it. They cut it. They cut it very violently. The same thing with the floor. They cut it. And then they lifted it. They pulled it. And that's what it is. And, we've done over 50 monuments. Number one, we start with, this is now a safe city. It's as safe a city as you're going to get in the country. And when I came here, it was a very dangerous city. And number two, what we did is the beautification with the parks and the grass and everything, removal of all the tents. and this is like a different place. One of the things we did is over 50 fountains and statues, most of which were in horrible shape. All of them were bad, but some were just absolutely horrible. Graffiti, you couldn't even see the stone. They've all been fixed. We also fixed the reflecting pool. In fact, if you go over there right now, it looks very good. Chicago problem. In 3-4 months, you'd have virtually a crime-free city. We'll remove all of the bad ones. I was more curious than anything else. Everybody else, if we're spending all...
Why is it doing this?
An analyst working on...
Is it just every YouTube video? What happened?
Operation Epic Fury. Donald Trump's so-called little excursion in Iran dragged from days to weeks to months and unleashed death, destruction, and an economic meltdown. After more than 100 days of strikes, retaliation, and escalating tensions, the United States...
Why is he using a separate pen for each signature?
To our commissioners. We'll take some on-topic questions, and we have the deputy mayors here to answer any as well. We will start with Laura right over here.
Hi, Mr. Mayor and Deputy Mayor. Deputy Mayors, can you tell us what exactly the executive order does that is new? Is it just a public information campaign, or is it creating some new regulations for public workers and private workers? And if the latter, how many people does it affect, and how would it be enforced? What's new here?
So first, I just also want to acknowledge Commissioner Dalton, who's here with us, and we have leaders from across city government. The reason being that this is an executive order that impacts the policies and the enforcement across multiple agencies. So I'm going to go through a few specifics of what the order does. The first is the DOHMH, in coordination with NISM and DCAS, all of whom leadership you see here, will develop worker heat illness prevention guidance and education materials to prevent heat-related illnesses and injuries for workers. A lot of this is motivated by the recognition that there is a glaring blind spot when it comes to what city government's preparation has been for workers, especially those who are working outside in these kinds of months. Secondly, the Department of Buildings is going to review current construction safety and training requirements to determine if those requirements are sufficient to actually protect workers against these kinds of conditions. We've seen, as you've heard earlier, these conditions affect New Yorkers across a wide variety of sectors. They affect those who are working at our airports. They affect those who are building our airports. And we want to make sure that this executive order applies to the full breadth of that spread of New Yorkers. And then also what we're going to have here is actual enforcement
Now, Newsmax is conducting its own poll
God.
on President Trump's job performance. It takes just a minute to vote. So,
for rules and regulations that have been on the books but have not actually been used, not have actually been followed through on. We know that the worth of a law also comes from the willingness to follow through on that law. So a few specific examples that we spoke about earlier. One is DOB will be proactively reminding property owners as well as contractors of their obligation to report heat-related incidents occurring on construction sites. We know that this is a crisis. We also know that there's likely underreporting of the scale of this crisis. We want to make sure we have an accurate understanding of just how widespread this is. And finally, we spoke about this earlier, but
in early 2020, I started becoming increasingly interested in finance. I know, ugh. But this was mostly trying to make sense of the logic behind what the Federal Reserve did in response to COVID, which I'll get into later. But the more and more I learned, the less and less it made sense. So I started deeply analyzing stocks from companies that I was personally and professionally familiar with, such as CuriosityStream and Spotify, which led to me starting a private fund that strategically shorted those companies. I even ended up getting hired as a freelance consultant for venture capital firms. Me, a musician with no higher education whatsoever. And the more time that I spent looking at and studying the big picture, the more that I doubted myself, as if the only two options were option A, me being unable to understand what every 25-year-old day trader understands, or option B, I'm right and every hedge fund manager and billionaire is wrong. But what if there's a third option? What if capitalism's death wasn't a mistake or something that the ultra-wealthy were trying to avoid? What if the pesky burden of labor laws and taxation could be avoided by deprioritizing the goal of financial profit? Or maybe even money itself. This video is going to explain or explore what I and an increasing number of economists think is happening or has already happened to capitalism. More importantly, I'm going to try to encapsulate the unsettling socioeconomic reality that we're living in, as so much has happened in the last decade that it seems foggy to us. You can't fairly describe capitalism without mentioning its predecessor, feudalism. And feudalism was a power structure in kingdoms where wealth was defined by the control of land rather than money. And our history books tell us that feudalism ended sometime in the late 15th century, but there's a much more recent version of it that would be a much better example for the purpose of this video. When the Civil War ended, or when the first American Civil War ended, depending on how far into the future you're watching this video, a lot of former slaves were offered a deal where they could continue living and farming on the same land where they were slaves in exchange for a portion of the crops. In many cases, they would only be able to sell their remaining crops through the plantation store. And with that income, they could participate in trade, which would allow them to buy more tools and negotiating power in hopes to eventually buy land for themselves. By the late 1930s, 2/3 of sharecroppers were actually white, and the Great Depression had shut down enough farms that many of the tenants migrated to large cities to become factory workers. It would be important to note that sharecropping is not technically outlawed today, it's just that American capitalism's growth made it obsolete. The former definition of capitalism is a system in which individuals and private parties control the means of production, and profits are the key driver of economic activity. And it's important to note that within a closed system with no new variables, capitalism's success can almost exclusively be measured by the velocity of money. The classic example is the farmer and the mechanic. This tiny economy has $50 total. The farmer trades $50 to the mechanic for tractor repair, and then the mechanic trades $40 for corn from the farmer, and then buys a barn cat for $10 from the farmer. And in this cycle, $100 has changed hands, so the velocity of money is measured as 2. This is calculated as the velocity within a time period equals the total sum of transactions over the total of money in that economy. In a larger modern economy, the classic way to increase the velocity of money is to reduce reduce interest rates, but when spending becomes reckless and leads to higher prices and reduced currency value, the classic move is to make borrowing more expensive. Governments around the world either control or have a lot of influence in interest rates, and some people think that because of this, the Federal Reserve should be abolished. And nobody could predict exactly what would happen if the Federal Reserve was abolished, but it would almost certainly result in a lot of turbulence in the market that would leave a lot of victims in its wake around the world. A really useful way to understand how wealth is distributed is to stop using money as a commodity and use something that people actually use or consume. Let's say a can of Coke Zero from a 12-pack. A person with $100,000 US in a traditional investment fund like Vanguard would come out to about 312,000 cans of Coke Zero in 2019. That same investment, untouched, is worth about 330,000 cans of Coke Zero now. So sweet, 18,000 cans of Coke Zero for free. Now, on the other hand, a person working for minimum wage full-time in Iowa would have made 43,360 cans per year before taxes in 2019. Today, in 2025, they're making 22,177 cans. Somehow, this person got a 49% wage cut, while the person with the market fund got free soda. Amazingly, through the miracle of inflation, the money decreases in value for everyone, while the actual wealth itself moves up to the top.
EVE Online is a...
The concept of the stock market was proposed in 1792, but it wasn't until 1830 when the first stock was sold on the New York Stock Exchange. It was initially filled with railroads and banks, but by the next decade, everybody with a business idea wanted to have their name listed. This rapidly stimulated both technological and economic growth, and by the end of the century, the middle class was getting more and more familiar with investment. By the 1920s, you might be seen as a fool for not being involved in stock trading. In fact, you might be seen as a fool for not borrowing money to buy stocks. Many middle-class investors were borrowing with a 1-to-3 ratio, meaning that they would borrow $300 for every $100 they invested. This sounds absolutely insane, but it didn't seem as risky due to the introduction of futures. In the mid-1800s, the Chicago Board of Trade had a pretty great idea to make grain trade a lot more reliable and a lot less volatile. Rather than grain farms having to guess what demand would be at the end of the season, they could sell it at a discount in advance. A future is not a stock or share, but a contract guaranteeing a future transaction. It just so happens that I have a whole bunch of healthy female chicks who will shower me with more eggs than I know what to do with in about 3 months. And I really could use a little bit of extra money to build an addition to their coop so they could have room to run around with and be healthy egg layers when they become adults. So you, being an opportunist and a capitalist, can buy my egg futures off of me and then sell eggs to restaurants in the summer at a profit and make money without ever having to shovel the heaping amounts of chicken shit that I'll have to shovel. All right, let's go back to the 1920s. By 1919, due